The first time my daughter told me my wife wasn't family, I was flat on my back beneath her dining room table, with a wrench in one hand and somebody else's dried gravy stuck to my shoulder. She didn't say it cruelly. Megan had always been at her most dangerous when she was trying to sound reasonable. "Dad, I need to ask you something about Christmas." I tightened the last bolt and gave the table leg a shake. "If this is about the ham, I already ordered it. It's not the ham, then you're about to ask me to move that piano." "There's no piano." Good, I was prepared to refuse. She didn't laugh. I slid out and found her standing over me with her arms folded. Behind her, late afternoon light poured through the new bay window. The whole dining room smelled like lemon cleaner and fresh paint. "Mom's coming," she said. "That's good. And Renee can't." For a second I thought I'd missed a word while crawling out. "Can't what?" "Come to Christmas." I got to my feet slowly, still holding the wrench. Megan looked almost relieved now that she'd managed to say it. She had invited my ex-wife back into the family for one day, and the price of admission was apparently my current wife. What I couldn't understand was why she expected me to pay it. I set the wrench on the table. It rolled toward the edge, stopped against a folded dish towel, and stayed there. Megan's new house was a 40-minute drive from ours, farther north, where the subdivisions had optimistic names like Willow Reserve and Hawthorne Glen, though there wasn't a willow or a glen in sight. She and Colin had bought the place in October. It had 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, and a kitchen island large enough to land a small aircraft. Half the electrical outlets didn't work. The upstairs shower leaked into the pantry, and the dining table had developed a wobble violent enough to spill wine. I'd been spending Saturdays there since they got the keys. That particular morning, I had patched nail holes, hung 2 curtain rods, and removed a plastic dinosaur from the heating vent. It had belonged to the previous owners, and when I held it up, Megan had said, "Put him on the mantle. He survived." Now the green dinosaur stood between 2 brass candlesticks, watching us. "What do you mean, Renee can't come?" I asked. Megan uncrossed her arms and immediately crossed them again. "Mom finally agreed to spend Christmas with us." I heard that part. "You know how difficult this is for her." "No, I don't." "Dad, I'm not being difficult. I'm asking what you mean." She glanced toward the kitchen, where Colin was assembling bar stools. Every few seconds came the metallic click of an Allen wrench, followed by a muttered word his mother would not have approved of. Megan lowered her voice. "Seeing you with Renee would make Mom uncomfortable. Has she never seen us together? Not in this setting." "What setting?" "Family Christmas." There it was again, that word family. She said it as if Renee had wandered into the wrong boarding line at the airport. I picked up the wrench and placed it beside my toolbox so it couldn't roll away again. Busy hands had gotten me through a lot of conversations. People mistook that for calm. Sometimes it was calm. Sometimes I was just buying enough time not to say the first thing that came to mind. "Did your mother ask you not to invite Renee?" Megan looked toward the bay window. She didn't need to. "That sounds like no." She asked who would be here. "And what did you tell her?" "I told her I'd take care of it." I nodded once. "So Laura asked who was coming, and you decided to uninvite my wife. You're making it sound harsher than it is. I'm using the events in the order you gave them to me." Megan exhaled through her nose. She'd done that since college whenever she believed the person across from her was failing an exam she had personally written. "It is one day," she said. "One meal. Renee is an adult. She'll understand." "She'll understand what?" "That Mom was part of this family first. Your mother is still part of the family. You know what I mean." "I'm starting to." Colin appeared in the doorway, holding a square wooden seat with 3 legs attached. "Anybody know if the extra screws are extras or if the company is testing my character?" He looked from Megan to me. "Bad time? Your wife just told me Renee isn't invited to Christmas." Megan's face tightened. "Dad?" Colin's eyebrows went up, then down, like he'd received information he would have preferred in writing. "I thought you two had discussed this," he said to Megan. "We are discussing it." "No," I said. "You're informing me." Colin turned the stool seat over in his hands. "I'm going back to the kitchen." "Strong choice," I told him. He disappeared. Megan walked to the window and straightened a curtain that was already straight. I wanted this Christmas to be peaceful. So did I. "You and Renee have your own traditions. We've been coming to your house for 4 years. This house is new. I'm glad we cleared that up." She turned. "Why are you doing this?" That almost made me laugh, but there was nothing funny in her face. She truly believed I had introduced the conflict by refusing her solution. I'm not doing anything, Megan. You invited me to Christmas and excluded my wife. I'm asking for a small sacrifice. Whose? Everybody's. Your mother gets what she wants. You get what you want. I come alone and explain to Renee why she's eating Christmas dinner by herself. Walk me through the part where everybody sacrifices. She has Celia, her sister is going through a divorce, and may spend Christmas throwing rocks at Steve's truck. That's not the point. I agree. Megan pinched the bridge of her nose. I just want one Christmas that feels normal. I looked around the room. Moving boxes were stacked behind the china cabinet. The dinosaur guarded the mantel. A sample patch of blue paint sat on the wall because Colin liked it, and Megan said it looked like a dentist's office. Nothing about the room was finished, which had been part of its charm until that moment. What does normal look like? I asked. You know, you, me, Jonah, Mom, dinner, the old ornaments. One day where nobody has to manage anyone's feelings, except Renee's. She isn't my mother. I've never heard her claim to be. Then why are you acting like this is some attack on her? Because you told me she isn't welcome. I said it was better if she didn't come. That's an uninvitation wearing perfume. Megan's mouth twitched despite herself. It vanished quickly. You always do this, she said. Do what? Turn everything into a little line. Something calm you can repeat later so you sound reasonable. That landed because it wasn't entirely wrong. I folded the dish towel and laid it beside the wrench. If my wife isn't welcome at Christmas, neither am I. Silence came down hard enough that I could hear Colin in the kitchen turning the wrong screw. Megan stared at me. You don't mean that. I do. You would miss Christmas with your own children because Renee can't come to one dinner. I'm not missing Christmas because she can't come. I'm declining an invitation that requires me to leave my wife at home. You're choosing her over us. I'm refusing to help you rank us. That's the same thing. No, honey, it isn't. Calling her honey was a mistake. Her eyes went cold. Fine, she said. Go ask Renee what she thinks. I guarantee she won't be as dramatic as you're being. I closed my toolbox. Megan watched the latches snap shut. What are you doing? Heading home. What about the shelves in the guest room? I'll come another day. And the table leaf? You said you'd check whether it fits. It does. I put it in before you got here. She looked at the table as if it had betrayed her by being complete. I carried my toolbox to the front hall. My coat lay over a box labeled Christmas, fragile, though knowing Megan, that warning applied to more than the ornaments. She followed me. Dad, don't leave like this. How should I leave? I don't know. Just don't make it a thing. It became a thing before I picked up my coat. She leaned against the newel post. For the first time since the conversation began, she looked less angry than frightened. Mom hasn't come to Christmas in 12 years. I know. This could be the only time. Why? Because she almost canceled twice already. Laura has been almost canceling things since 1987. I'm serious. So am I. I'm glad she's coming. I hope you have a good day with her. You could have a good day too, if you stop treating this like a loyalty test. I put on my coat. I'm not the one who wrote the test. Outside, the temperature had dropped while I was working. My truck's windshield had a skin of ice along the edges. Megan stood in the open doorway without a coat, one hand gripping the frame. Are you still bringing the folding chairs? She called. I turned around because I honestly thought she was making a joke. She wasn't. We only have 8 dining chairs, she said. With Mom and Jonah, we need the folding ones. I won't be here, Megan. I know, but we still need them. I looked at her for several seconds. Ask Colin's parents. They're already bringing the wine. I'm confident their car can hold both. She crossed her arms against the cold. What about the ham? The ham was for the Christmas dinner I thought we were attending. So now we don't have a main course? You have 3 weeks. You already ordered it. Yes. Then what are you going to do with a 12-pound ham? Eat it slowly. That got a laugh from Colin somewhere behind her. It came out like a cough and ended abruptly. Megan stepped back into the house. This is unbelievable. I shut the truck door without answering. I didn't feel triumphant as I drove away. I felt old, not physically old. I still climbed ladders, still changed my own oil, still believed most household problems could be improved by cleaning the filter. It was a different kind of age, the moment when you realized a pattern had been repeating for years, and you had helped teach everyone the steps. At a red light, my phone buzzed in the cup holder. Megan had sent me a link to a folding chair rental company. 3 dots appeared beneath it. vanished, then appeared again. Finally, she wrote, "Please don't tell Renee until we've had time to figure this out." The light turned green. I drove another block before pulling into the empty lot of a garden center closed for the season. Rows of bare wooden tables sat behind a chain-link fence, waiting for spring. I read Megan's message twice. Then I called my wife. Renee answered on the fourth ring. "If this is about paint, I still vote green." "It isn't about paint. Did you find another dead animal in their wall? Plastic dinosaur in the vent. That house keeps giving." I watched a loose shopping cart roll 6 inches across the parking lot and stop. "Megan doesn't want you at Christmas," I said. Renee went quiet, not confused, not shocked, just quiet. That hurt more than anything Megan had said. Finally, Renee asked, "Did she tell you why?" "Laura's coming, I see. I told her I wouldn't go without you." Another silence, longer this time. Then my wife said very gently, "Daniel, how long would you have kept letting her do this if she'd been smart enough not to say it out loud?" I knew better than to answer quickly. Renee had a way of asking questions that left you enough room to lie to yourself and then made you hear the lie when it came out. "I haven't been letting her do anything," I said. "Okay, she's never told you not to come to Christmas before." "No, she's usually more elegant." "Elegant? The wedding pictures." I leaned back against the truck seat. "What wedding pictures?" "Our pictures, Daniel. Megan and Colin had married 3 years earlier at a vineyard with a restored barn, unpredictable plumbing, and a hill steep enough to test every elderly relative's commitment to the marriage. Renee had altered Megan's dress after the original seamstress announced she was moving to Arizona 4 weeks before the ceremony. The alteration took 6 evenings, 2 emergency fittings, and language from Renee I hadn't heard since a squirrel got into our attic. "Renee, you were in the wedding pictures. I was in the pictures with you." "Right, I wasn't in the family pictures." I started to answer, then stopped. I remembered standing beside Megan near the grapevines while the photographer called combinations. Bride and parents. Bride, groom, and parents. Mercer family. "Original Mercer family," Megan had said with a nervous laugh, pulling Laura in on one side and Jonah on the other. Renee had been behind the photographer, holding Megan's bouquet and a paper cup of water. "She took pictures with us later," I said, at the reception after I asked. "You didn't tell me that. You were having a good day." That excuse sounded familiar because it belonged to me. I'd used it for birthdays, Sunday dinners, holidays, and any conversation I didn't want to spoil by having. "I'm sorry," I said. "I'm not bringing it up to make you apologize." "Why are you bringing it up?" "Because you sound surprised." A horn went off behind me. I turned, but it was only a delivery truck entering the garden center lot through a side gate. "Megan loves you," I said. "I know she does. She asks about you. She asks if you're free. Then she asks whether I mind." "That's not fair." "I didn't say it was malicious." "You made it sound malicious." "No? You heard it that way because it's easier to defend her from malice than to admit she simply doesn't consider me." The delivery truck backed toward a greenhouse, beeping steadily. The driver was alone, guiding himself by 2 side mirrors and Faith. I rubbed my forehead. "What do you want me to do?" "I didn't ask you to do anything. You asked how long I was going to let her do this. And you told her you weren't going. That is doing something. You don't sound happy about it." "I'm trying to find out whether you said it because you meant it or because you were angry. I meant it." "All right, you still don't sound happy. Would you like me to clap?" "Not while I'm driving." "You're driving, I'm parked. Then I can clap." I smiled despite myself. Renee sighed. "Come home, Daniel. We shouldn't do this over the phone. I'll be there in 40 minutes. Get coffee. You made coffee this morning. You drank it. That's why you made it. I'm gonna need some." She hung up. Our house sat on an older street where the maples had cracked the sidewalks, and no 2 mailboxes stood at the same height. It was smaller than Megan's, with 1 bathroom upstairs and a kitchen drawer that jammed whenever the humidity changed. Renee had painted the front door yellow the summer after she moved in. I'd objected for 2 weeks and defended it to everyone else for 7 years. She was at the kitchen table when I came through that yellow door. Her gray-streaked hair was clipped up with a blue pencil, and she had 3 stacks of receipts spread around her laptop. Renee did bookkeeping for a handful of local businesses and distrusted any client who submitted a restaurant receipt with the word meeting written across the top. I set 2 coffees on the table. peace offering, I said. Is there bourbon in it? It's 4:15. So no? She took off her glasses. There was a basket of clean laundry on the counter behind her, half folded. My shirts were in one pile, hers in another. 7 years of marriage looked less like a wedding portrait than knowing which of someone's sweaters could survive the dryer. I hung up my coat and sat across from her. Tell me exactly what Megan said. I did. Renee listened without interrupting, except to ask whether Laura had actually requested her exclusion. When I said Megan had answered, she didn't need to. Renee's mouth tightened. That sounds like Megan, she said. I thought you'd say something about Laura. I don't know what Laura said. She didn't say anything, according to Megan. Then, this isn't about Laura yet. Yet. I took a drink of coffee. Megan thinks seeing us together will make her uncomfortable. It probably will. You say that like it's reasonable. It is reasonable. We're all uncomfortable together. We've had dinner with her. Twice. 3 times. The retirement party doesn't count. There were 80 people and an ice sculpture between us. That ice sculpture made everybody uncomfortable. It was supposed to be a swan. It looked like a kidney. Renee smiled into her cup, then looked down. I can stay home, she said. No. Listen first. No. I am not asking your permission. That was clear from the first month we dated. I mean, I can make the decision for myself. Celia will be here. She's already threatening to bring every ornament Steve hated and hang them from our porch. I won't be alone. That's not the point. You used those exact words to Megan, didn't you? More or less. Your arguing vocabulary is getting narrow. I set my coffee down. I'm not going without you. Because you want me there? Yes. Or because you want Megan to lose? The question irritated me enough that I stood up. I don't want my daughter to lose Christmas. She won't. She'll have Christmas. You just won't be doing all the work. That isn't why I said no. Then sit down. I can stand in my own kitchen. You can also pace in it, apparently. I had made it from the table to the refrigerator and back without noticing. I sat. Renee reached across and touched 2 fingers to my wrist. I believe you, she said. But I also know you. You have spent years making yourself useful to Megan because usefulness feels safer than asking whether she actually wants to know you. That's a very expensive sentence for someone who isn't my therapist. My invoice is in one of these piles. She's my daughter. Father's help. Yes. I helped Jonah move last year. You helped Jonah move once. You have helped Megan move 3 times, fix 2 apartments, renovate this house, rescue 6 dinner parties, negotiate with a plumber, and identify a smell in her first car. It was cottage cheese. I know. You told the story at our wedding. It was a powerful smell. My point is, you don't wait for her to ask what things cost you. You make sure they cost nothing. I looked toward the half-folded laundry. One of my shirts had slid from the pile onto the floor. I got up, picked it up, and folded it. Renee watched me. You see it, don't you? She said. See what? You're folding laundry to escape a conversation about how you escape conversations by being useful. I'm capable of 2 things at once, not emotionally. I dropped the shirt back onto the pile. My phone buzzed on the table. Megan had sent another message. I'm not trying to hurt anyone. I'm trying to avoid a scene. Please don't involve Jonah until we settle this. Renee read my face. What? I handed her the phone. She read the message and passed it back. What does settle this mean? I go to Christmas alone. Probably. She thinks I'll change my mind. Will you? No. Renee nodded, but she did not look relieved. What? I asked. Nothing. You're doing the quiet thing now. I learned from a professional. Say it. She took a breath. I don't want to become the reason you and Megan stop speaking. You aren't. She will think I am. She can think whatever she wants. No, she can't. Not if you never correct her. I started to object, but the phone buzzed again. This time Jonah's name appeared. I stared at it until Renee said, Answer your son. Jonah opened without a greeting. Are we still doing the train station plan? What train station plan? You pick up Mom. I bring her suitcase back to the hotel after dinner, so you don't have to make 2 trips. Apparently Megan had organized our Christmas transportation with the precision of a military landing and the minor oversight of not telling me. I'm not picking up your mother. Did she change trains? No. Then why aren't you picking her up? Ask your sister. A pause. Dad? What? Whenever you say ask your sister, it means you want me to ask my sister while also making it clear that you know she won't give me a straight answer. You're very perceptive. I grew up there. Renee looked away, but I saw the corner of her mouth move. Megan told me Renee isn't invited to Christmas, I said. I told her I won't be coming either. Jonah went quiet. Then he said, "That's new." "Which part?" "All of it." "I thought you knew. I knew Mom was coming. I didn't know we were ejecting Renee into space." That was not the phrasing. I'm improving it. In the background, a cabinet door shut. Jonah lived alone in a downtown apartment with expensive knives and exactly one bath towel. He worked irregular hours, cooked elaborate meals for himself, and treated family conflict like a fire alarm in a hotel. Acknowledge the noise, put on pants, wait for instructions. "What did Megan say?" he asked. "That Laura would be uncomfortable." "Did Mom ask for this?" According to Megan, she didn't have to. That sounds like Megan. Across the table, Renee mouthed, "See? What are you going to do?" Jonah asked. "Spend Christmas with my wife." "Right. I meant about Megan. I already did it." "No, you made a decision. That's different from doing something about Megan." "I don't know what that means." "Neither do I yet." Another pause. "Don't call her angry," I said. "I'm not angry." "You sound angry." "I sound hungry." "It's close." "Jonah." "I'll call her. She asked me not to involve you." "You didn't involve me. Megan involved me when she assigned me suitcase duty in a Christmas coup." "It isn't a coup." "Fine. Holiday restructuring." He hung up before I could tell him again not to call angry. Renee put her glasses back on and pulled the laptop toward her, which was her signal that the conversation had moved from active pain to pain, requiring administrative distance. "We still need to decide what we're doing," she said. "I told you, I'm staying home." "That's what we're not doing." "What are we doing?" I looked at her. She pointed toward the coffee cup, as if it contained evidence. "You ordered a 12-pound ham. So, unless your plan is to eat it slowly while glaring north, we're going to need people." "The first person is Celia," I said. "Obviously." "Do we have to hang the Steve ornaments?" "They're not Steve ornaments. They're ornaments Steve hated." "What's the difference?" "Intent." Renee picked up her phone and called her sister. Celia answered on speaker with, "If you're calling to ask whether I'm bringing the angel, the answer is yes." "What angel?" I asked. "The anatomically unsettling one," Renee said. "The angel is hand-painted," Celia said. "The angel has nipples. Angels are God's creatures, Daniel. It's wearing a robe. Why did the artist paint through the robe?" Vision. Renee closed her eyes. "Would you like to come here for Christmas?" Celia went silent just long enough to make the question feel heavier than it sounded. "What happened?" she asked. "Why does something have to happen?" "Because you've spent every Christmas at Megan's since she bought the dining set with the bench." "That was 4 years ago," I said. "I measure time through furniture." Renee looked at me. "Megan invited Laura and asked me not to come." "Asked or told?" "Told," I said. "And Daniel?" He declined. Another silence. Then Celia said, "That must have hurt." I expected her to mean me. She meant Renee. My wife rubbed one thumb along the side of her coffee cup. "It wasn't my favorite phone call." "You two want me to slash anyone's tires?" "No," Renee said. "Good, because mine are new and I'd have to borrow yours." "We have a ham," I said. 12 pounds. "Well, now you're just flirting. You're invited. I accept. I'm bringing potatoes and the angel. You can bring one of those things. I'll let God decide." She hung up. Renee set down the phone. Her expression had softened, but not much. "Who else?" she asked. "Celia can eat." "She can't eat 11 pounds of ham. You haven't seen her since Steve moved out." "That is true. We considered people we knew who might otherwise be alone. Not in the charitable sense." Renee disliked invitations that made the guest feel like a project. She rejected my suggestion of my former coworker, Frank, because Frank had 3 sisters, 2 sons, and a standing invitation to eat somewhere every hour from December 23rd through New Year's Day. "What about Walter?" she asked. Walter Pike lived next door in a narrow brick house that had belonged to his mother. He was 74, had been retired from the post office for 9 years, and continued to judge everyone by how clearly they addressed envelopes. His wife, Denise, had died 5 years earlier. Since then, he had developed a habit of appearing whenever I opened my garage door, as if summoned by the sound. "He goes to his niece's," I said. Not this year. She and her husband are going on a cruise. How do you know that? Because I talked to him. I talked to him. You talk about gutters. Gutters are how men ask if each other are all right. Then go ask his gutters what he's doing for Christmas. I found Walter in his driveway spraying deecer on a patch of pavement no bigger than a placemat. That's enough, he said when I came over. If anyone falls now, it's because they came with a plan. Got your Christmas figured out? He looked at me over the top of his glasses. You selling tickets? We're having dinner at our place. Aren't you usually at your daughter's? Not this year. Walter pumped the spray handle twice, though nothing came out. What did you do? Why does everybody assume I did something? You have a daughter. You have two. That's how I know. I shoved my hands into my coat pockets. Megan's having her mother over and asked me to leave Renee home. Walter nodded slowly. That'll do it. We're having Celia. Is she the one with the laugh? They both have laughs. The loud one. That doesn't narrow it down. Recently divorced. Yes. Walter glanced toward our house. Renee, all right? Ask her. I am not walking into that. You'll walk in for ham. I have courage in specific areas. 4 o'clock. I'll bring pie. Store-bought is fine. It won't be store-bought. I know. Walter had made the same apple pie every Christmas since Denise died, using her recipe and too much nutmeg. No one had ever told him about the nutmeg. Grief deserved certain privileges. When I went back inside, Renee was standing at the refrigerator with a notepad. He's coming, I said. I heard. Our windows are not soundproof. You make me go outside and then listen through the glass? I wanted you to have privacy with the gutters. She wrote Walter beneath Celia's name. 3 guests, including us, would have made 5. It wasn't an event. It was dinner. That mattered to me in a way I didn't want to examine too closely. I wasn't building a rival Christmas. I wasn't competing with my daughter. Renee drew a line under the names. No social media, I said. She turned. I'm sorry, no pictures posted, no comments about being where we're wanted. None of that. I don't post pictures of dinner. Celia does. I'll tell her. And we don't invite people just to make the table look full. Agreed. I don't want Megan hearing about some big celebration and thinking we did it at her. Daniel. What? It is possible to enjoy something that she didn't authorize. That isn't what I said. You're setting rules for a revenge party no one suggested. It's not a revenge party, I know. That's why it doesn't need rules. My phone rang on the kitchen table. Megan. Renee looked at the screen and handed me the phone. I'm going upstairs, she said. You don't have to. I know. That was the second time she'd used those words in an hour. This time, I heard the difference. I answered after the 4th ring. Hi, what did you say to Jonah? No greeting. Apparently both my children had inherited efficiency. The truth. He called me and said I was running a Christmas coup. He downgraded it to restructuring. This is funny to you? No, because he thinks it's funny. Jonah thinks dental surgery is funny if he isn't the patient. You had no right to drag him into this. He called me about picking up your mother. You could have told him the plans changed. They didn't. My participation changed. That is such a dad answer. I don't know what that means. It means technically correct and completely unhelpful. I sat at the table. Renee's receipt stacks were squared neatly beside the laptop. She'd taken her coffee upstairs. What would have been helpful, I asked, giving me a little time. To do what? Talk to you again before you announce this to everyone. I didn't announce anything. Jonah called me. You knew what would happen when you told him? Yes. He would know why I wasn't at Christmas. You could have said you and Renee made other plans. That would make it sound like we backed out. You did back out. After you excluded my wife. You keep using that word. Which word would make you more comfortable? She went silent. I heard movement in the background, then the soft close of a door. She had probably gone into the new pantry, the only room in the house with both a lock and dependable outlets. I am trying to protect Mom, she said. From what? From walking into a room and seeing the woman who replaced her. Renee did not replace Laura. Fine. The woman you married after her. That describes a timeline, not an injury. Can you stop talking like a plaque? I rubbed my eyes. Megan, I don't want to fight. Then why are we fighting? Because not wanting a fight is not the same as agreeing. She breathed out hard. Mom is nervous. She already feels like everyone chose you. Who is everyone? You have Jonah. You have me most of the time. You have the house. You have all the traditions. The house. Laura had never wanted it. She'd called it too dark, too old, too full of repairs that led to other repairs. When she left, she moved into a bright apartment near the river, then later to a condo in North Carolina. We had divided everything without a courtroom battle. She took the walnut dresser, the blue dishes, half the savings, and every Miles Davis album except the one with a scratch across side B. I kept the house because I had nowhere else I wanted to go. You invited her, I said. She's not being deprived of Christmas. She'll know you stayed away because of her. Only if you tell her. I'm not lying to Mom. You asked me to lie to Jonah. I asked you not to involve him. You keep making the same sentence, wear different clothes. See? Plaque. I almost smiled. Almost. What do you want from me right now? I asked. I want you to tell me you're going to think about it. I have thought about it. For less than 2 hours. It didn't require a committee. You're really going to do this? Yes. Another silence. When she spoke again, the anger had drained from her voice. What am I supposed to tell Mom? The truth. That you chose Renee over your children? That you asked me to come without my wife, and I declined. You know that isn't how she'll hear it. I can't control how Laura hears things. You used to. The words slipped out so quietly I wasn't sure she had meant to say them. Before I could answer, Megan said, I have to go, and ended the call. Renee came downstairs 10 minutes later, carrying the laundry basket. She had folded the rest upstairs. How bad? She asked. Apparently I sound like a plaque. That's not new. She said Laura thinks everyone chose me. Renee set the basket on the bottom stair. Did they? I don't know what that means. Yes, you do. I went to the refrigerator, though I wasn't hungry. A magnet held Megan and Colin's wedding announcement at eye level. They were standing on the Vineyard Hill, Megan laughing at something outside the frame. I never asked anyone to choose, I said. That doesn't mean no one did. My phone vibrated on the table. A text this time, not from Megan. Laura's name hadn't appeared on my screen in almost 4 months. The last message had been about a tax form that arrived at our old address. Megan tells me you won't be at Christmas. Is Renee ill? I read it twice. Renee watched from the stairs. Well? She asked. I turned the phone around so she could see. For the first time that afternoon, my wife looked genuinely surprised. I should answer, I said. That would be the customary next step. I typed, No, Renee isn't ill. Then I stopped. There were several ways to finish the message, and every one of them felt like placing a lit match on someone else's porch. I could tell Laura exactly what Megan had said. I could ask what Laura had requested. I could write, call your daughter, which would guarantee that everyone heard the hostility, even if I left out the punctuation. Renee sat on the bottom stair. What are you writing? Nothing yet. Is that why your thumbs are hovering over the phone like 2 nervous birds? I deleted the sentence and started again. No. Megan asked me to come without her, so I declined. I showed Renee before sending it. You don't need my permission. I'm checking the wording. It's accurate. Does it sound angry? It sounds like a plaque. I sent it anyway. Laura called before the screen went dark. I looked at Renee. She lifted the laundry basket and continued upstairs. You don't have to leave, I said. She didn't turn around. You don't need an audience, I answered. Hello? What does that mean? Laura's voice had changed very little in 12 years. A little softer, maybe. The edges weren't as quick. She used to speak as if there were only so many seconds available, and I was wasting my share. It means what it says, I told her. Megan asked you not to bring Renee? Yes. Why? She said having Renee there would make you uncomfortable. There was a pause, followed by the faint clink of glass. Did I say that? You tell me. I asked who was coming. That's what Megan said. I asked because she kept saying it would be like old times, and I wanted to know what old times meant. What did she tell you? That you were coming. Jonah was coming. Colin's parents. An aunt of his. She said it would be family. Again, family. Did she mention Renee? No. And you didn't ask? I assumed if you were coming, your wife was coming. I sat down at the kitchen table. Laura said, Daniel, I'm here. I didn't ask her to exclude Renee. All right. What does that mean? It means I heard you. You say all right when you don't believe me. I also say it when I believe you and don't know what comes next. Well, something has to come next. That has always been your position. She gave a short breath that might have been a laugh if we'd still known how to laugh together. I told Megan it might be strange, she said. That isn't the same thing. Strange for you, for everyone. Renee has been to dinner with you before, An ice sculpture sat between us. It looked like a kidney. It did. The silence afterward held more warmth than I expected. That was the trouble with people you had loved for a long time. Even when the love changed shape, it remembered where the furniture used to be. Laura cleared her throat. I am not afraid of your wife. I didn't say you were. You were thinking it? I was thinking Megan said you couldn't handle seeing us together. She said that? Not those words. What words? That seeing us would be painful for you. Laura was quiet. It wouldn't be pleasant, she said. Thank you for the distinction. Don't do that. Do what? Make honesty sound petty, because it isn't flattering. I leaned back in the chair. Fair. I don't enjoy watching you two together, she said. I don't know Renee well enough to dislike her, and that almost makes it worse. She's perfectly gracious. She remembers how I take coffee. I hate that she remembers how I take coffee. She remembers everyone's coffee. I know. That also makes it worse. Despite myself, I smiled. Laura continued. But discomfort is not an emergency. I can sit through dinner. Apparently, Megan doesn't think you should have to. I'm calling her. Don't call angry. I'm 63 years old, Daniel. You were angry before 30, and you were condescending before you had gray hair. That wasn't condescension. It was concern. That sentence should go on your grave. The old rhythm came too easily. I had once known which cabinet she would slam by the kind of argument we were having. She had once known I was truly furious only when I started wiping counters. Even after the marriage ended, our reflexes remained married for a while. Laura, I said, don't cancel. I didn't say I was canceling. You're thinking about it. How do you know? You asked who would be there 3 times before agreeing. Megan told you that? She told me twice. I rounded up. Laura sighed. Maybe I should stay at the hotel and let you all have Christmas. No. Why not? Because Megan wants you there. She wanted all of us there until she didn't. She still wants you, and she wants you. Not if I bring my wife. Stop saying it like that. How should I say it? I don't know. Less cleanly. There it was, our whole marriage in 4 words. I looked toward the stairs. Renee's footsteps moved across the bedroom above me, then stopped. I'm not trying to punish Megan, I said. I know. Do you? You're trying to make a boundary. The phrase sounded unnatural in Laura's mouth. During our marriage, we had called boundaries stubbornness, selfishness, or needing a minute. And, I asked, and you have a habit of waiting until you're hurt enough that the boundary feels like a wall. I told her I wouldn't come without Renee. That's hardly a wall. No, it's a sentence you should have said a long time ago. I didn't answer. Laura's voice softened. This isn't the first time, is it? She's never excluded Renee from Christmas. That isn't what I asked. From upstairs came the muffled slide of a drawer. I don't know, I said. Yes, you do. Apparently, both my wife and my ex-wife had scheduled the same conversation. Laura said, Megan's been angry with Renee since the wedding. She wasn't angry. She wouldn't put her in the family photographs. That stopped me. You noticed? Everyone noticed. I didn't. Daniel? I thought the photographer ran out of time. The photographer stayed until 11. I stared at the wedding announcement on the refrigerator. Why didn't you say something? Why didn't you? I just told you I didn't notice. No. You noticed Megan took the bouquet from Renee before calling me into the picture. You noticed Renee went to stand with Colin's aunt. You noticed she didn't come back for the next 6 combinations. I could see it once Laura described it, not as a memory I had forgotten, but as one I had filed under not today. I didn't want to embarrass anyone, I said. Of course you didn't. What's that supposed to mean? It means you've always preferred a quiet injury to a loud repair. The sentence made me grip the phone tighter. Are you calling to help? I'm trying. Try without reviewing our marriage. Our marriage is in the room, whether you review it or not. Your room, maybe. Don't be childish. I'm going to hang up now. That's not childish at all. Goodbye, Laura. Daniel. What? I did not ask her to do this. I believe you. Tell Renee. I will. And tell Megan I'm still coming. You tell her. Oh, I intend to. She hung up. I stayed at the table, looking at the phone, until Renee came back downstairs. She carried the laundry basket past me and set it on the counter. Well, she asked. Laura didn't ask. Renee folded a towel that was already folded. I figured. She assumed you were invited, did she? She said seeing us together wouldn't be pleasant, but discomfort isn't an emergency. That sounds like her. You've spoken to her maybe 6 times. 7. She called me about your colonoscopy. I looked up. Why? You weren't answering your phone. I was unconscious. She didn't know that. You two discussed my colonoscopy? Briefly. I don't like learning things about my life this way. Renee put the towel down. What happens now? Laura is calling Megan. Oh no. As if summoned, my phone began vibrating across the table. Megan, I let it ring. Renee watched me. You should answer. Why? Because if you don't, she'll drive here. She lives 40 minutes away. She'll make it in 32. The call stopped. A second later, the doorbell rang. Renee and I looked toward the front hall. That was fast, I said. She went to the window and moved the curtain half an inch. It's Colin. He stood on our porch holding the green plastic dinosaur. I opened the door. Hi, Colin said. Did the dinosaur come to negotiate? He was in my truck. You put him on the mantel. I needed emotional support. Colin looked over my shoulder at Renee. Can I come in? He entered carrying the dinosaur against his chest. He still had sawdust on one sleeve from the bar stools, and his hair stood up on one side where he'd been running his hand through it. Megan knows Laura called you, he said. That happened quickly. Laura called Megan. Megan called me. I was in the hardware store buying screws that, for the record, were not extra. Renee took the dinosaur from him and placed it on the hall table. Where is Megan? She asked. At home. Her mother is still on the phone with her. You left while she was upset? Colin glanced between us. She told me to come get the folding chairs. For one stunned second, no one spoke. Then Renee began to laugh. Not politely, not delicately. She leaned against the wall and laughed until she had to wipe beneath one eye. Colin's face reddened. I know how it sounds. Do you? I asked. She said if the chairs were already at the house, that was one less thing to argue about. The chairs are in the basement. Great. That wasn't permission. Right. He rubbed both hands over his face. I don't care about the chairs. Then why are you here? Because my wife is crying. Her mother is furious. Jonah sent a text asking whether he should book a referee. And somehow, I'm assembling furniture in the middle of it. You came here to get away, Renee said. I came here because Megan asked me to. You can do both, I told him. Colin looked at me. Are you really not coming? Not without Renee. He nodded toward the kitchen. Can we sit down? We did. Colin chose the chair facing the refrigerator, then seemed to notice the wedding announcement and looked away. I told Megan this was a bad idea, he said. But you agreed. She didn't ask me to agree. She said her mother was finally coming and Renee would understand. That was popular today, Renee said. I thought you might. I do understand, she said. That's part of the problem. Colin picked at a strip of dried glue on his thumb. This house was supposed to be different, he said. Different from what? I asked. He glanced toward the hall where the dinosaur sat beneath the mirror like a witness waiting to be sworn in. Every place we've lived, he said. Megan keeps saying once the house is finished, everyone can come over and things will feel settled. The upstairs shower leaks into the pantry, I said. Settled may take a while, I know. But she wants this Christmas to prove something. To whom? Colin looked at the wedding photograph on the refrigerator. I'm not sure, he said. He was lying, but not comfortably. Before I could press him, the front door opened. Megan had never returned her spare key. She stepped into the hall with her phone still in her hand, saw the dinosaur beneath the mirror, and then saw her husband at our kitchen table. You left me, she said to Colin. He stood. You told me to get the chairs. I didn't mean now. Renee's laughter was gone. Megan looked at me. Her eyes were swollen, but her voice was steady. You called Mom. She called me. You told her I said she couldn't handle Christmas. I told her why you excluded Renee. I did not exclude her. No one answered. Megan's face crumpled for half a second, then hardened again. I was trying to give my mother one day where she didn't have to look at the life you built after her. Renee stood beside me, close enough that her sleeve touched mine. Megan saw it. There, she said, pointing at us. That. You have no idea what that looks like to her? Renee's voice was quiet. No, Megan, she said. I think you have no idea what it looks like to me. Megan looked at Renee as though a chair had spoken. What is that supposed to mean? It means I have spent 7 years trying not to make your mother uncomfortable. I never asked you to. No. You just thanked me whenever I disappeared at the right moment. That isn't fair. Probably not. Renee didn't raise her voice. That made Megan's rise to meet it. You were at my wedding. I was. You sat with Dad. You were in pictures. You gave a toast. I helped your aunt find the ladies' room. That wasn't a toast. You know what I mean. I do know what you mean. I was present. You were kind to me. Those things are true. Then why are we rewriting everything like I've treated you terribly? Because your father finally said no to something? Megan turned to me. Are these your words or hers? Renee took one step away from me. They're mine, she said. I asked him. I know. Megan, I said. She held up one hand. No. I want to understand what happened here. Dad was helping me with the table. We were having a perfectly normal afternoon. I asked him for one thing, and suddenly I'm on trial for 7 years of crimes nobody mentioned. You didn't ask for a thing, I said. You announced a decision. I explained why. You explained why you thought I'd accept it. Colin lowered himself back into his chair. I wondered if he had learned somewhere that sitting made him a smaller target. Megan pointed toward Renee. She said she understands. I understand why you did it, Renee said. I don't agree that you had the right. My mother is coming into a house full of people who adore Dad and barely know her, then invite people who know her. It's Christmas, not a conference. That would explain the folding chairs. Colin covered his mouth. Megan stared at him. Are you laughing? No. You are. I inhaled. Go home, Colin. I drove here with the dinosaur. I have a car. Then why did I... Please. He stood, picked up his coat from the back of the chair, and looked at me. I'm sorry, he said. For what? He considered the question, found too many answers, and put on his coat. At the door, he paused beside the green dinosaur. Should I take him? Leave him, Renee said. He's heard too much. Colin nodded and went outside. Megan waited until his headlights passed the kitchen window. That was unnecessary, she said. So was sending him for chairs you don't need for 3 weeks, I told her. I panicked. About chairs, about everything. Her voice broke on the last word. She sat in Colin's abandoned chair and pressed her palms against her eyes. Renee and I stayed where we were. Comfort is easy when it excuses you from the conversation that caused the tears. I had made that mistake often enough to recognize it. Finally, Megan lowered her hands. Mom cried in the bridal suite, she said. I leaned against the counter. At your wedding, she kept saying she was happy. Then every time someone mentioned you, she cried harder. I didn't know. Of course you didn't. You were outside taking pictures. With you, with all of us. That was why I asked for the original family picture. She had spent the whole morning watching Renee help me get dressed. Mom walked in and didn't know where anything was. She didn't even know which earrings I'd chosen. Renee's eyes moved toward the wedding announcement on the refrigerator. Megan continued. She felt replaced before the ceremony even started. I wasn't replacing her, Renee said. You were doing all the things she should have been doing. The seamstress moved to Arizona. That's not what I mean. Then say what you mean. Megan gripped the edge of the table. You're good at everything. Renee blinked. You remember birthdays? Megan said. You make people feel comfortable. You fix hems and bring the right food and never say the wrong thing. Mom walks into a room with you and feels like she's failing some test she didn't know she was taking. I say wrong things all the time, not in front of her. That is because I am terrified of her. The room went still. Megan gave a small, disbelieving laugh. You are not. I met your mother after marrying the man she spent 26 years with. She knew where he got the scar on his left hand. She knew which stories he exaggerated. She knew what his face looked like when both of you were born. I knew how he took his coffee. Black, Megan said. Now. He used to put sugar in it. Megan glanced at me. I stopped in my 50s, I said. The doctor made a face at my blood work. Neither of them appreciated the contribution. Renee sat across from Megan. Your mother made me feel temporary without trying, she said. I made her feel replaced without trying. We were polite because there was nothing either of us could say that would fix the arithmetic. That didn't mean I wanted her gone. Then you should understand why I wanted one day for her. I do. What I don't understand is why the day had to be taken from me. Megan looked down. I saw the opening and did what I had always done. I tried to bridge it before either woman could step away. What if we change the dinner? I said. Different times, maybe. Laura comes earlier and... No, Renee said. Megan's head came up. Renee turned to me. Please don't schedule us around each other like dental appointments. I'm trying to find a solution. You're trying to stop the discomfort. Is that bad? It is when the discomfort is telling the truth. Megan gave a humorless laugh. So now being uncomfortable is noble? No, Renee said. But sometimes it's just the price of having more than one person in a room. I pushed away from the counter. I'm standing right here. They both looked at me. It was an absurd complaint, considering the conversation was largely about my marriage, but I had begun to feel like an appliance being discussed by two technicians. Megan's expression hardened again. You could still come. Not without Renee. Even if she tells you to? Yes. Renee looked at me. We'll discuss that later. No, we won't. That sounded healthy, Megan said. I turned to her. You don't get to grade the marriage you won't invite to dinner. The moment the sentence left my mouth, I wanted it back. Megan's face changed, not anger, something quieter. All right, she said. She stood and took her keys from her coat pocket. Megan, no. You've made your point. I made it badly, but you made it. She moved toward the hall. Renee rose too. I'm sorry, Renee said. For what? For waiting until today to say any of this? Megan opened the front door. Cold air swept through the hall. That would have been useful before I became the villain. No one called you a villain, I said. You didn't have to. She walked out. I started after her, but Renee caught my sleeve. Let Colin meet her, she said. She's upset. She came in her own car. She shouldn't drive upset. She has been driving upset since she was 16. It's how she gets places. Through the window, I watched Megan sit behind the wheel without starting the engine. A minute later, Colin's truck returned and pulled in behind her. He got out. She didn't. Colin stood beside her window in the cold, waiting. Eventually, the door opened. Megan stepped out, and he wrapped both arms around her. She resisted for about half a second before pressing her face into his coat. I turned away. Renee had gone back to the kitchen. She put the receipt stacks into folders with more force than paper required. I shouldn't have said that about grading our marriage. No! She thinks I see her as the villain. Do you? No. Then don't make her one just because you finally got angry. I know. Do you? I looked at the yellow front door. I'm learning. The next morning, Colin returned for the dinosaur. He didn't ring the bell. I found him standing beside my truck while I scraped frost from the windshield. She sent me, he said. For emotional support? For the dinosaur. Although I may keep him in the truck, I handed it over. How is she? Embarrassed, angry, sad. She reorganized the pantry at midnight. Your cereal is in danger. She alphabetized the spices. That's serious. Colin rested the dinosaur on the hood of my truck. She didn't mean to hurt Renee. I believe that. She thought if she explained it correctly, nobody would be hurt. I believe that too. He studied a scratch near the dinosaur's tail. She's still expecting you to change your mind. I won't. I know. You sound disappointed. I am not in you. He tucked the dinosaur under one arm. Her mother hasn't called back, he said. Jonah told Megan he's still coming, but he won't pretend he agrees. My parents want to know if they should stay home. They shouldn't. I told them that. Good. And we ordered a turkey. Also good. He walked toward his truck, then turned. Megan wants the old ornament boxes. They're in my attic. She said you'd know which ones. I do. She asked if I could get them. You could, or she could ask me. Colin nodded slowly. I'll tell her. She didn't ask. 2 days later, while Renee was out, I carried the boxes down myself. There were 4 of them, sealed with brittle masking tape and labeled in Laura's handwriting. Lights, glass, kids, misc. The writing pulled me backward harder than I expected. Laura had pressed too firmly with the marker, leaving grooves in the cardboard. I opened the box marked kids. Inside were the uneven clay ornaments Megan and Jonah had made years ago, a wooden train with one wheel missing, and a red felt star repaired down the middle with tiny gold stitches. Renee had fixed that star our first Christmas together. I sat on the attic floor holding it. My phone buzzed. A message from Megan. You can leave the boxes on the porch. We won't be home. I read it once, then returned the star to the box. When I carried the ornaments into Megan's empty dining room that Saturday, the table was fully extended. 10 chairs surrounded it, 8 wooden, 2 borrowed metal ones that didn't match. My folding chairs were still in my basement. On the mantel, between the brass candlesticks, the space where the dinosaur had stood looked strangely deliberate. I stacked the boxes against the wall. On top was a printed place card in Megan's handwriting. Dad. There was no card for Renee. I didn't touch it. Moving the card would have felt childish. Taking it would have felt hopeful. I left it where it was, centered above a dinner plate that had not yet been set. On my way out, I noticed a legal pad on the kitchen island covered with Megan's handwriting. Turkey temperature, train arrival, wine chilling, ice. She had drawn boxes beside each task and checked off fewer than half. Beside Pick Up Mom, 210, she had written Colin in capital letters. My name still appeared beside Carve. I locked the door behind me and put the spare key through the mail slot. The key landed on the hardwood with a small final sound. At home, the 12-pound ham occupied most of the bottom shelf of our refrigerator. Renee had stuck a note to it. Eat slowly. I removed the note and put it on the coffee maker. She found it the next morning and moved it to my bathroom mirror. By Christmas Eve, the note had traveled through 6 rooms, including the garage, where I attached it to the windshield of her car. It was the closest we came to discussing Megan. We talked around her instead. Potatoes, table linens, whether Walter would regard unsalted butter as a personal insult. Celia called 3 times about serving dishes and once to ask if our homeowner's insurance covered spiritual incidents, which meant the angel was definitely coming. Renee worked harder than a 5-person dinner required. She polished glasses no one cared about and made cranberry sauce from scratch, even though I liked the ridged kind from the can. Every time I suggested simplifying something, she added another task. At 9 on Christmas Eve, I found her wiping the tops of the kitchen cabinets. "Who's going to look up there?" I asked. "Tall people. Walter is 5'8". Celia judges dust spiritually. I took the rag from her. "You can't clean hard enough to make tomorrow unimportant." She stared at me. "I was going to say the same thing to you about the ham. I'm following a recipe. You built a spreadsheet. It calculates glaze intervals. Ham doesn't know what time it is. This one will." She leaned against the counter. For a few seconds, neither of us moved. A string of colored lights blinked around the kitchen window. I had hung them crooked, and Renee had refused to fix them because she said every Christmas display needed one visible marital compromise. "Do you regret it?" she asked. "No." That was fast. "I've had 3 weeks. Do you miss her?" "Yes." Also fast. That answer has been available the whole time. Renee looked toward the window. Our reflections floated in the black glass beneath the crooked lights. "I keep imagining her at that table," she said. "So do I. And then I feel guilty because I hope something goes wrong." I waited. "Not anything serious," she added. "A burned side dish, a clogged toilet, something educational. The upstairs shower may handle that without divine intervention." She smiled faintly. "I don't want her humiliated," she said. "I want her inconvenienced enough to notice who she removed." That sounds uncomfortably familiar. I know. I folded the rag and hung it over the sink. "Tomorrow isn't about proving anything. Then stop checking your phone. I'm checking the glazed spreadsheet. You checked it while holding a screwdriver. I contain multitudes." She reached over and turned my phone face down. Christmas morning came clear and bitterly cold. At 6:20, I woke to the smell of coffee and found Renee in the living room, wearing my old robe over flannel pajamas. She had opened the curtains. Frost feathered the lower corners of the windows, and the yellow front door glowed in the early light. "Merry Christmas," she said. "Merry Christmas." We exchanged gifts beside a tree too large for the room, because I had refused to admit how wide it was at the tree lot. She gave me a new set of drill bits and a framed photograph from a weekend we'd spent near Lake Erie. In the picture, wind had blown her hair across my mouth. Neither of us looked ready. I gave her silver earrings shaped like small leaves. "You noticed," she said. "What?" I stopped wearing the old ones. One fell down the bathroom drain. 7 months ago. I had to compare leaf sizes. She kissed me before I could explain further. My phone stayed face down until nearly 10. When I finally looked, there were messages from Frank, 2 former co-workers, a dentist who had clearly automated his holiday greeting, and Jonah. "Merry Christmas. Heading to Megan's at noon. I'll call later." No message from Megan. I typed, "Merry Christmas. Drive carefully." Then deleted drive carefully because Jonah was 33, not 17. I sent it anyway. He replied with a thumbs up and a picture of a pie carrier buckled into his passenger seat. The ham went into the oven at 11:47, 2 minutes behind the spreadsheet. Renee did not mention it. I peeled potatoes. She trimmed green beans. We listened to a radio station playing Christmas music, interrupted by advertisements for mattresses and emergency plumbing. Celia arrived at one carrying a casserole dish, a garment bag, and the angel. The angel was 18 inches tall, carved from wood, with pale blue wings and a face that suggested it knew why your marriage had ended. Absolutely not, Renee said. You haven't seen the best part. We have seen all the parts. Celia set the angel on our mantel. Its painted eyes followed me toward the kitchen. Steve hated her, Celia said. I understand Steve better every day, I told her. Celia had cut her dark hair short since I'd last seen her, and she wore a red sweater with one sleeve slightly stretched. She hugged me longer than usual. You all right? She asked into my shoulder. Fine. You're lying. It's Christmas. People lie seasonally. She released me and went to help Renee. Walter arrived 20 minutes early in a jacket and tie, carrying an apple pie wrapped in a clean dish towel. He had shaved so closely that the skin beneath his chin looked polished. I brought nutmeg, he announced. In the pie? I asked. In addition. Of course. He handed Renee a small tin, as if presenting ceremonial gold. At 2:10, the exact time Laura's train was scheduled to arrive, I was tying butcher's twine around nothing because the ham did not require twine. I had found the spool in a drawer and started untangling it. Renee gently took it away. Go set the table. The table is set. Set it emotionally. I don't know what that means. Neither do I. Go. I went to the living room and moved the angel 3 inches to the left. At 2:23, my phone buzzed. Laura. I didn't pick it up in time. No voicemail followed. I stood with the phone in my hand until a message appeared. Merry Christmas. I'm here. Colin got me. I typed, Merry Christmas. Glad you arrived safely. 3 dots appeared, then vanished. I waited. Nothing. Daniel, Renee called from the kitchen. If you open that oven again, I will change the Wi-Fi password. I'm not near the oven. Good. Stay wherever you are. Dinner was supposed to be at 4. At 3:30, the ham looked perfect. At 3:45, Walter asked if I wanted help carving it. At 4, I said. At my old office, if something arrived at 3:30, we processed it at 3:30. It's meat, Walter, not registered mail. Meat dries out. It's resting. It has rested. At 3:50, Celia poured him wine and led him away. I checked my phone. Nothing from Jonah. Nothing from Megan. At 4, Renee asked me to carve the ham. 2 more minutes. The spreadsheet, the internal temperature. The thermometer says 140. It may be lying. About what? I left it in for 6 more minutes. When I finally sliced into the ham, it was slightly dry. Walter said nothing, which was how I knew he noticed. We sat around the dining table with 1 chair empty. Not intentionally. I had set 6 places out of habit and realized too late there were only 5 of us. Celia looked at the empty chair, then at me. We could put the angel there, she said. No, 4 of us answered. The meal began stiffly. Walter praised the cranberry sauce as though endorsing a political candidate. Celia told us Steve had sent her a Christmas card addressed to Celia and household, which she considered grounds for reopening divorce negotiations. Renee's potatoes were excellent. The green beans were cold because I had forgotten to turn on the warming tray. Halfway through dinner, Walter asked, Anybody else's Christmas going badly, or are we pretending? Renee choked on her wine. Celia said, Mine is wonderful. No one has corrected how I load a dishwasher. Walter looked at me. The ham's dry, I said. It is, he agreed, visibly relieved. We laughed. Not because the ham was dry, because someone had finally permitted the day to be imperfect. After that, the room loosened. Walter told a story about Denise mailing her own birthday card to remind him. Celia admitted she had hidden the angel in Steve's golf bag during the property division and forgotten it for 6 weeks. Renee laughed so hard she put her forehead on the table. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I left it there. Dessert had just been served when headlights swept across the front windows. A car door slammed. Jonah came in without knocking, carrying the pie carrier in one hand and the red felt star in the other. Merry Christmas, he said. His cheeks were red from the cold. He looked angry, though with Jonah it was sometimes difficult to separate anger from hunger. Renee stood. What happened? Nothing. That's not true, I said. Fine. Several things happened, but none of them are mine. He put the pie carrier on the counter. Celia pointed her fork at it. Is that a second pie? It's bourbon pecan. Walter sat straighter. You can stay. Jonah looked around the table and noticed the empty place. Were you expecting me? No, I said. Good. He set the red star beside Renee's plate. I took this from Megan's tree. Why? I asked. Because she said it didn't belong there. Renee touched the gold stitching down the middle. Her face changed. I repaired this, she said. I know. Did Megan tell you to bring it? No. Jonah removed his coat. Mom left before dinner, he said. The room went quiet. Why? I asked. She saw your place card. My stomach tightened. Jonah pulled out the empty chair and sat. She asked where Renee's was, he said. Megan told her there wasn't one. Renee picked up the felt star and walked into the pantry. The door closed behind her. Jonah looked at me. I thought you should know, he said. Through the pantry door came one small, broken sound. I stood so quickly my chair struck the wall. Before I reached Renee, my phone began ringing. Megan's name lit the screen. I turned the phone face down on the table and opened the pantry door. Renee stood between shelves of canned tomatoes and paper towels, pressing the red star to her mouth. She had one hand over her eyes. I'm fine, she said. No, you aren't. That was a warning, not a diagnosis. I stepped inside and shut the door behind me. The pantry was large enough for 2 people, if neither required dignity. A sack of flour dug into my ankle. What did Megan say about the star? Renee asked. I don't know. Jonah only said she thought it didn't belong there. I fixed it, I know. The seam had split all the way through. I remember. She lowered the star. Gold thread ran down its center in small, even stitches. Megan had made it long before I knew Renee, but without those stitches it would have been 2 pieces of red felt in a box. I didn't change it, Renee said. I matched the thread that was already there. You don't have to defend a repair. She must have seen it and thought I'd marked it. We don't know what she thought. That has been the problem all along. I put my arms around her. At first she held herself stiffly, the star trapped between us. Then her forehead settled against my shoulder. Outside the pantry, someone moved a dish. Walter murmured something, and Celia shushed him too loudly. I hate crying in storage spaces, Renee said. You have strong feelings about pantries. I cried in this one when we redid the floor. You dropped a tile on your foot. It was an emotional tile. My phone stopped ringing. Renee pulled away and wiped beneath her eyes. You should call her back. I should stay here. She's your daughter. You're my wife. That sentence is getting tired. It's still true. They can both be true, Daniel. I looked at her. She held up the star. This is exactly what you do. You wait until 2 people need something, then you decide only one of them is allowed to have you. That way you never have to risk doing the wrong thing halfway. What do you want me to do? Answer the phone, then come back. I opened the pantry door. Everyone at the table made a poor attempt to look as if they had not been listening. Walter had placed his napkin over the remains of his pie, perhaps to protect it from emotion. Jonah stood. Is she okay? She's coming back. My phone showed 2 missed calls and a message. Mom left. Jonah left. Colin's parents are leaving. I hope you're happy. I read it aloud. Nope, Jonah said. That's bait. Don't call it bait, Celia said. She's hurt. Bait can be hurt. What happened over there? I asked. Jonah leaned against the counter, arms folded. Mom got there at 2:20. Colin picked her up. Everything was awkward but manageable. Megan kept giving everybody jobs. That sounds normal. She made Colin's dad put batteries in candles that already had batteries. Nervous, Renee said from the pantry doorway. Jonah nodded. Mom asked where you were. Megan said you and Renee decided to stay home. Mom said that was odd because you told her something different. Where were you? I asked. In the kitchen trying to prevent Colin from opening the turkey every 4 minutes. Good man. Mom went into the dining room and saw your card. It was the only card on the table. I thought of it centered above the empty plate. Megan was holding my place, I said. That's what she said. Mom asked why she was holding your place if you'd made other plans. Then she asked where Renee would sit if you changed your mind and brought her. Celia slowly put down her fork. What did Megan say? Renee asked. That it wasn't going to happen. Jonah picked up his water glass, realized it was empty, and set it down again. Mom asked if Megan had invited you or summoned you. Megan said she was not discussing it in front of everyone. Mom said, everyone already knows. They're sitting around his empty chair. That sounded like Laura. She had never been good at private anger once public anger became available. Then what? I asked. They went into the kitchen. Colin and I moved to the living room, which would have been respectful if the kitchen didn't have an open doorway. Walter leaned forward. What did Laura say? Walter, Renee said. What? We're all here? Jonah looked at me. Mom said she didn't come for a photograph of a family that doesn't exist anymore. The room grew very still. She said, photograph? I asked. Yes. Renee looked down at the star. What photograph? Celia asked. Megan wanted the four of us in front of the fireplace, Jonah said. Me, Mom, Dad, and her. Dad wasn't there, Renee said. That was becoming a logistical problem. Something cold settled beneath my ribs. Did Megan tell you that before today? I asked. She asked me last week to bring the sweater I wore in the old Christmas pictures. I thought she was being weird. You didn't ask why? Megan is frequently weird in ways that produce good lighting. Despite everything, Celia laughed. Jonah continued. Mom told her she wasn't going to pose as your wife. Megan said no one was asking her to. Then Mom asked why Renee had to disappear for the picture to work. I pulled out a chair and sat. Laura left after that? Not immediately. Megan cried. Colin tried to get everyone to have appetizers. His father opened a bottle of wine without finding the corkscrew, which I didn't know was possible. How? Pocket knife. There was cork in the wine. Walter winced. Mom said she'd go back to the hotel and come over tomorrow when things were calmer. Megan accused her of ruining the only thing she'd asked for. Mom said, No, sweetheart. You asked for something that was already ruined and expected all of us to stand still around it. Then she left. That also sounded like Laura. A little cruel, a little true, and delivered late enough that no repair could follow. What about you? I asked. I stayed. You said you left. I stayed through appetizers. Colin's parents wanted to go, but Megan asked them not to. Then she tried to set the table again. Jonah gestured toward the red star. She took that off the tree and put it in the ornament box. I asked why. She said the gold stitching wasn't original. Renee's fingers closed around it. I told her she was being awful, Jonah said. She told me to go spend Christmas with you if that was how I felt. So you did, Celia said. No. First I ate a crab puff. Then I did. Renee sat beside him. You shouldn't have taken the star. I know. You should return it. I know. Thank you for bringing it. Jonah looked at her. I know. My phone rang again. This time I answered. Megan, are you all having fun? Her voice was tight and wet. In the background, I heard cupboard doors closing. No, I said. Jonah said you have people there. We invited Celia and Walter. So you made a replacement Christmas. We made dinner with my brother. He came after your mother left because he stole something from my tree. I'm bringing it back, Jonah called. You put me on speaker? No, you're loud. Of course he's there. Of course everybody chose you. Nobody chose me. Mom left, Jonah left. Colin's parents are putting on their coats. What would you call that? People reacting to what happened, what you made happen. I wasn't there. That's exactly how you made it happen. I stood and moved into the living room. The angel watched from the mantel with painted disappointment. Megan, I'm sorry your day fell apart. No, you aren't. I am. You wanted me to see how much I need you. Fine, I see it. That is not what I wanted. You took the ham, the chairs, Jonah, and Mom. I did not take people. You knew they'd side with you. I didn't know your mother would leave. I didn't know Jonah would come here, but you're happy they did. Behind me, dishes clinked as everyone tried not to listen. I'm not happy, I said. You're sitting around a table with people who think you're wonderful while I'm cleaning cork out of a bottle of wine. I don't think he's wonderful, Walter called. The ham's dry. I closed my eyes. Megan heard him. For one startled second, she laughed. It came out broken, and then she began crying harder. Megan, I hate this. I know. No, you don't. You're not here. I would have been. If I invited Renee, yes. She ended the call. The room behind me stayed quiet. I called back. She declined it. Renee came into the living room. Give her a minute. She's alone. Colin is there. He's probably loading his parents' car. Headlights swept across the window again. A car door slammed. Jonah looked toward the front hall. That's not Colin's truck. Someone knocked. Not rang the bell. Knocked hard enough to rattle the glass. I opened the door. Megan stood on the porch in a green dress and no coat. Her mascara had run beneath both eyes. Behind her, her car was angled across the driveway with the driver's door still open. What are you doing here? I asked. You wouldn't come to me. She pushed past me into the hall. Warmth, food, and laughter had left evidence everywhere. Walter's tie hung over the back of a chair. Celia's boots lay crooked beside the mat. 2 pies sat open on the kitchen counter. The red star rested beside Renee's plate. Megan took in the scene. "You did replace us." "No," I said. "We had guests. On Christmas, while your family was waiting for you. My family was here too." The words landed badly. I heard it as soon as I said them. Megan looked at Renee, Celia, Walter, then Jonah. "Right," she said. "That isn't what I meant. It's exactly what you meant." Jonah stood. "Megan, stop. You walked out. You told me to. You were supposed to care enough not to." Jonah's face tightened. "That's not how telling someone to leave works." She turned to me. "I set a place for you. You set a place for the version of me who leaves his wife home and still shows up to carve the turkey. I thought you'd calm down. I was calm. That made it worse. I know. No, Dad, you don't. You made one quiet announcement and everybody decided I was cruel. You didn't have to yell. You just stood there being disappointed. I did not tell anyone to leave you. You didn't have to." She was shivering now. Renee moved toward the coat hooks. "I'll get you something warm," she said. "I don't want anything from you." Renee stopped. Megan closed her eyes. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "That was ugly." "Yes," Renee said. "No one rescued either of them." Megan looked at the red star. "I didn't throw it away." "I know," Renee said. "It wasn't supposed to be on that tree." "Why?" "Because she fixed it," Jonah said. "Because it was from before," Megan snapped. "I wanted the old ornaments, the way they were." "The old way was broken," Renee said. "That's why I stitched it." Megan stared at her. Then she looked at me. Mom said almost the same thing. I stepped closer. "Go home with Colin. We'll talk tomorrow." "No. Tomorrow everyone gets to be reasonable. I want to know now. Know what? If I call you next Christmas, will you come? If Renee is invited?" Her mouth trembled. "So there's no me and you anymore." "There is. But there is no me without her when you're asking me to pretend she doesn't exist." "That isn't what I asked. It is what you built the whole day around." Megan wiped her face with both hands. "I wanted one picture. There it was. Not a meal, not peace. A picture." "Why?" I asked. She looked toward the dining room, at 5 people gathered around an imperfect table. "I don't know," she said. I believed that answer more than anything else she had said. Then she turned, walked out into the cold, and left the door standing open behind her. Cold rushed through the hall. I grabbed my coat from the hook and followed her. Megan. She had reached her car but wasn't getting in. She stood with one hand on the open door, shivering hard enough that her keys tapped against the window. "Put this on. I'm leaving. Then put it on while you leave. I don't want your coat. It isn't a symbol. It's 22 degrees. She took it and shoved her arms into the sleeves. It hung past her knees. "You always do that," she said. "Offer coats? Act like if you can solve the temperature, nothing else needs solving. You're right, the coat won't solve anything." That answer made her angrier than an argument would have. She looked back at the house. Through the dining room window, I could see Jonah standing near the table. Renee was behind him, holding the red star. "Are they all watching us?" "Yes." "Perfect. You came here. Because you wouldn't come there. I told you why. I know why." She slammed the car door without getting inside. "I don't know how to do this with you," she said. "Do what?" "Be angry. You never get angry back. I got angry earlier. No, you said one sharp thing and apologized before I could enjoy hating you for it." I shoved my hands into my pockets. "What would help right now?" "Stop asking me that like I'm a broken sink. Then tell me what you need." "I don't know. I believe you." "Stop being understanding. I can try yelling. You'd be terrible at it. I have a strong voice. You shout at football, only when they deserve clarity." For 1 second her mouth softened. Then she looked down at my coat. "I really thought you'd come," she said. "I know. When I wrote your place card, I thought you'd see it and understand I was leaving room. For me, yes. Not for my life." She winced. "I'm your life too." "You are. But I don't get to ask for anything that belongs only to us?" "Of course you do." "When?" "Lunch, dinner, a weekend, any day that isn't built around asking me to hide my marriage." It wasn't hiding. "Megan." She leaned against the car. "My whole life. Christmas was the 4 of us," she said. "For 18 years. That was my whole life then. I understand." "Then Mom left?" and you stayed in the house with all our things. Every year after that, she visited like a guest. Then Renee moved in, and suddenly she knew where the serving platters were. I had never thought about serving platters as territory. Laura probably had. I should have listened sooner, I said. To what? To what this felt like for you. You mean before you married her? No. Before you let your hurt become a story about Renee. Megan stared at me. You think I don't like her because I'm hurt? I think you like her when she isn't evidence. Evidence of what? That the old family ended. She pulled my coat tighter. That's convenient, she said. Now everything I feel is because I can't accept reality. I didn't say everything. You never say everything. You say half, then let the other person hear how disappointed you are in the silence. That was close enough to Laura's criticism that I wondered how many family traits were actually shared injuries. I am disappointed, I said. So am I. A truck turned onto our street. Collins. He parked behind Megan's car and got out wearing no coat, just a button-down shirt with the sleeves rolled up. He looked at her, then me. I took your mother back to the hotel, he said. Megan nodded. She asked me to tell you she loves you. Then why didn't she tell me? She tried. You weren't answering. Megan took her phone from the pocket of my coat. The screen showed 6 missed calls. I turned it off, she said. I noticed. Colin came closer. Your turkey is still on the counter. Throw it away. It cost $80. Then marry it. He looked at me. I don't know what response is correct, he said. Take her home, I told him. Megan opened her car door. I can drive. Fine, Colin said. I'll follow. You always follow. Tonight, yes. The words landed harder than he intended. Megan got into her car and shut the door. Colin rubbed the back of his neck. I meant the car, I know. He looked through the window at her, then at me. I didn't know about the picture, he said. Neither did I. She told me she wanted a photograph of everyone. Everyone is a flexible word. I should have asked. So should I. Megan started the engine. My coat was still around her shoulders. Colin jogged back to his truck. I stood in the driveway until both vehicles disappeared, then went inside. No one asked what had happened. Celia brought me a plate with pie on it. Walter poured coffee into my wine glass because all the mugs were in the dishwasher. Jonah sat beside Renee, turning the red star carefully between his fingers. I'll take it back tomorrow, he said. Not tomorrow, Renee replied. Give her a day. Are you sure? Yes. He put it down. The evening never recovered its earlier warmth, but it didn't collapse either. We cleared dishes. Celia wrapped slices of ham for everyone, labeling Walter's DRI but edible. Walter took offense and then took 2 packages. Jonah washed pans while I dried. Renee stood between us, putting things away. And each time she opened a cabinet, I thought about Laura not knowing where the platters were anymore. After the others left, Renee found my phone under a napkin. Laura called, she said. It was nearly 10, but I returned the call. She answered immediately. Is Megan with you? She was. Was? Colin took her home. Laura released a breath. She turned off her phone. She does that when she wants people to know she isn't answering. Did she say why she wanted the picture? No. She told me it was for the mantle. That isn't a reason. I know. Renee carried plates into the kitchen. I took the call into the living room. What did you think the picture was? I asked. A picture. You told Jonah you wouldn't pretend to be my wife. I got angry. Were you wrong? No. The angel stood on the mantle beneath the colored lights. From the couch, its robe looked less anatomical. Distance helped most things. Laura said, when Megan invited me, she kept saying she wanted one Christmas like before. I thought she meant the food, the ornaments, you making the ham. I made the ham. I heard. Who told you? Jonah. He said it was dry. Walter influenced him. Was Renee very hurt? Yes. I'm sorry. You should tell her. I don't think she wants to hear from me tonight. You don't know. Neither do you. That was fair. Laura was quiet for so long, I thought the call had dropped. Then she said, Did Megan ever tell you she thinks you left me for Renee? My grip tightened on the phone. She doesn't think that. She asked me once. When? Before your wedding. What did you say? I said marriages end before other people can see them ending. That isn't an answer. It was the answer I could give. Why? Because she was already furious with you. She was furious because she thought I left you. No, she was furious because you looked happy. I stood. That's not fair. I didn't say it was. You let her believe something that wasn't true. So did you. I told both of them Renee and I met after you moved out. You told them dates. You didn't tell them anything else. What was I supposed to tell them? That their mother woke up one morning and decided she didn't want her life? I didn't wake up one morning. You're right, it took years. Daniel? What? Don't turn me into the villain now because it would simplify Christmas. I looked toward the kitchen. Renee was standing at the sink with her back to me. I never made you the villain, I said. That was not always kindness. The anger went out of me. Laura continued. You told them we grew apart. You said the separation was mutual. You let them think you wanted the divorce because you didn't want them angry with me. You asked me to say that. I know. Then why are you blaming me? I'm not. I'm saying Megan built a story in the space we left. I sat on the arm of the couch. 12 years earlier, Laura had rented a furnished apartment in Portland, Maine, and called it a 6-month trial. She said she needed to know who she was when nobody needed dinner, laundry, or an answer. Jonah was 21. Megan was 25. Both had been old enough to hear the truth and young enough for us to decide they shouldn't. Laura came back after 5 months, but not to the house. She stayed in a hotel for 3 nights. We had dinner twice and sat in her rental car for an hour the 3rd night. She asked whether there was somebody else. There wasn't. She cried when I said I didn't want her to come home. She left me first, I told the dark living room. That's what Megan remembers. No, Laura said. She remembers that I came back and you said no. How does she know that? I told her I tried. You told her that? She asked. And did you tell her why you left? Silence. Laura? No. I closed my eyes. So she thinks I refused to save the marriage, then met Renee. Yes. And you allowed that. You allowed it too. I didn't know. You didn't ask what I told her. Why would I? Because you knew she blamed you. I thought that was the price of protecting you. And I thought letting her blame you was the price of not making myself the victim. That makes no sense. It did at the time. From the kitchen, water stopped running. Laura's voice became quieter. We were both very good at making silence sound generous. I heard my own words to Megan in the driveway. I had thought I was refusing to let her rank us. For years, I had ranked everyone privately, deciding whose pain could be hidden and whose truth could wait. What do we do? I asked. I don't know. You always have a plan. I had a plan today. It went badly. I looked at the empty space where my daughter had stood. Tell her the truth, I said. Together? No, not tonight. When? When it isn't ammunition? Laura let out a tired laugh. That could be never. Then we wait until it's close. We ended the call without saying goodnight. Renee was drying the same plate she had been holding when I came into the kitchen. How much did you hear? I asked. Enough. She never told Megan why she left. I know. How? You never told Megan either. I reached for the plate. Renee held on. I was protecting Laura. And who was protecting us? I had no answer. She let go of the plate. 3 days later, my coat appeared on our front porch, folded inside a grocery bag. There was no note. I washed the coat even though it wasn't dirty. Renee found it hanging in the laundry room and ran one sleeve between her fingers. Why did you wash wool? I used cold water. That wasn't my question. It smelled like her perfume. And? I don't know. The coat dried stiff. I wore it around the house for 20 minutes to soften it, which made Renee laugh for the first time since Christmas. Megan did not call. I gave her 3 days, then 5, then told myself I wasn't counting. On the 7th day, I left a voicemail. I love you. I'm sorry Christmas hurt. I'm not sorry I stayed with Renee. Both things are true. Call when you're ready. I listened to the message before sending it, hated the sound of my own carefulness, and sent it anyway. She didn't respond. Jonah returned the red star to her. He left it in the ornament box rather than hanging it on the tree, since the tree was already at the curb. She asked if Renee told me to take it, he said, while eating leftover ham at our kitchen counter. What did you say? I said Renee told me to bring it back. And? She said, of course she did. What does that mean? It means everything Renee does correctly currently counts against her. Renee stood at the sink with her back to us. Did Megan seem all right? She asked. No, Jonah said. Is she eating? She's not a hostage. I know. She's eating. Colin is there. The house is still standing. Mom sends her 3 messages a day. Laura told you that? I asked. Mom sends me screenshots when Megan doesn't answer. Tell her to stop. I did. She sent a thumbs up, then another screenshot. Jonah scraped mustard across the last piece of ham. Do you want me to talk to her? He asked. No, I said. Yes, Renee said at the same time. We looked at each other. I don't want Jonah in the middle, I said. I am in the middle, Jonah replied. You're standing on both sides of me, shouting that you don't want me here. Nobody's shouting. That's the shouting in this family. Renee dried her hands. Don't carry messages, she told him. But don't pretend nothing happened either. That was my plan. It's always your plan. It's a versatile plan. He wrapped 2 more slices of ham in foil and took them home. The house became too quiet after that. Before Christmas, Megan had called most Sundays. Sometimes she talked for an hour. Sometimes she put me on speaker while she and Colin argued about paint colors, light fixtures, or whether a rug could be too emotionally beige. I rarely said much. I had mistaken being included in the noise for closeness. The first Sunday she didn't call, I checked the phone twice. The second Sunday, I took it with me while I cleaned the garage. By the fourth, Renee stood in the garage doorway and watched me reorganize a shelf of screws I had already organized. You know she can still call if the screws are mixed, she said. They were not sorted by head type. They looked sorted. To an amateur. She came inside and leaned against the workbench. Call her if you want to call her. I left a message, a month ago. She knows my number. That sounds like punishment. It's a boundary. No. The boundary was Christmas. This is pride wearing the boundary's coat. I put a box of drywall anchors on the shelf harder than necessary. What do you want me to say? The truth. I said the truth. You said 2 balanced sentences that could be printed on a mug. You and Megan should start a plaque business. Renee smiled, but she didn't let me escape. What is the truth today? She asked. I looked down at my hands. That I miss hearing her complain about the house. Then tell her that. She'll think I'm offering to fix something. Are you? No. Then be clearer. I called. It went to voicemail. I miss hearing you complain about the house, I said. That is not an offer to repair it, although I remain curious about the shower. Call me. 2 hours later, Megan responded by text. The shower still leaks. Nothing else. I typed, I'm sorry to hear that. Deleted it. I can come Saturday. Deleted that too. Have you called the plumber whose number I left Colin? Her answer came immediately. He wants $180 just to diagnose it. That sounded ordinary, not an emergency. Not a request, though Megan had always preferred needs that arrived disguised as information. I wrote, that's a normal service charge. The leak could be the drain seal or the supply line. Don't use the shower until he checks it. 3 dots appeared. You said you'd fix it. I stared at the sentence. Before Christmas, I had told her I'd come another day. At the time, it had been a father promising to finish work at his daughter's house. Now, every promise had acquired a lawyer. I can look Wednesday evening. I have plans Saturday. What plans? Dinner with Renee. You live with her. I almost laughed. We still leave the house. She did not answer. On Wednesday, I drove to Hawthorne Glen with my toolbox in the passenger seat. Megan's spare key was no longer on my ring. I rang the bell. Colin opened the door. He looked thinner, though that might have been the old sweatshirt hanging from his shoulders. Thanks for coming. Where is she? Upstairs. She said she had work. Does she? She has a laptop. I took off my boots. The dining table was back to its regular size. The extra leaf leaned against the wall in a padded case. No place cards. No borrowed chairs. A pale rectangular patch on the mantel showed where Christmas decorations had blocked the sun. The green dinosaur sat on the kitchen island. You kept him, I said. He's seen me through worse. Upstairs, I removed the shower drain cover and found water damage around the seal. The repair was simple. The ceiling below would be less simple, but not catastrophic. Megan appeared in the bathroom doorway while I was cleaning the old putty. Hi, she said. Hi. Her hair was tied back. She wore one of Colin's sweatshirts and no makeup. She looked tired, but not fragile. There was a danger in treating a grown woman as fragile simply because you remembered when she wasn't grown. How bad? She asked. The drain seal failed. I can replace it. Tonight? Yes. And the pantry ceiling, it needs to dry first. Then somebody should cut out the damaged section. Somebody, I looked at her, she folded her arms. I'm asking. I can help Colin with it next week. Help Colin. Yes. You always did this stuff for me. I did it for both of you? You know what I mean? I'm not sure I do anymore. Her face closed. I returned to the drain. Did you get my messages? I asked. Yes. I miss you. She stared at the back of my head. You could have come to Christmas. I kept scraping. You could have invited my wife. Are those the only two sentences we have now? They're the two we haven't finished. She walked away. I heard her footsteps go down the hall, followed by a bedroom door shutting. Colin appeared 5 minutes later with a cup of coffee. Black, he said. Thank you. I'm sorry. You didn't build the shower. I meant her. So did I. He sat on the closed toilet lid while I fitted the new seal. She thinks you're teaching her a lesson, he said. I'm fixing the drain, not this. I don't know how to convince her I'm not. Stop sounding so calm. That advice has become popular. She hears calm as distance. What does she hear anger as? Love, sometimes. I tightened the last screw. That isn't healthy. No. Do you two fight a lot? Not until the house. I sat back on my heels. Colin rubbed his palms together. Everything was supposed to settle down after we moved, he said. Instead, every unfinished room feels like proof we're failing. Who are you proving it to? That is the expensive question. Renee said something similar about therapists. We can't afford one until the upstairs plumbing stops attacking the pantry. He smiled, but only briefly. Megan did not come downstairs before I left. I sent her a message from the driveway. Don't use the shower for 24 hours. I love you. She responded to the first sentence with a thumbs up. The winter went on that way. Small contacts, narrow doors. She came to Jonah's birthday dinner in February and hugged me with both arms, then spent most of the evening discussing a television show with Celia. She was polite to Renee, too polite. She asked whether Renee would like more water in the tone of a flight attendant addressing a nervous passenger. Laura returned to North Carolina and continued calling both of us. She wanted to tell Megan the full truth about the separation. I kept saying, not yet. Megan was barely speaking to either of us. Dropping 12-year-old pain into that silence felt less like honesty than throwing a chair through a window so we could discuss ventilation. Renee thought I was stalling. You're still protecting Laura, she said. I'm protecting Megan. From information about her own family, from hearing it as a defense of me. Maybe you don't get to control how she hears it. I'm trying to choose the right time. You've been choosing the right time for 12 years. That ended the conversation. Our anniversary fell near the end of February. We booked 2 nights at a small lakeside hotel where the winter rates were low because the lake looked like a sheet of hammered steel and the wind tried to remove your face. The room had a gas fireplace, a deep bathtub, and a framed photograph of sailboats optimistic enough to be insulting. I put my phone in the dresser drawer, Renee noticed. That's dramatic. I'm being present. You could silence it. The drawer adds commitment. We went to dinner in the hotel restaurant. Renee wore the silver leaf earrings. I told her they looked good. You compared sizes, she said. I did extensive research. We walked back through snow that squeaked under our shoes. For the first time since Christmas, I went almost an hour without thinking about whether Megan had called. Then we entered the room and heard my phone vibrating inside the dresser. It stopped. Started again. Renee sat on the edge of the bed. You can answer it. The screen showed Colin. I picked up. Daniel, he said before I could speak. Water roared behind him. A pipe burst in the dining room wall. I was already reaching for my shoes. Where's the main shutoff? I don't know. I showed you. I know, but there's water everywhere, and Megan's trying to move the table. Leave the table. Go to the basement. The valve is beside the meter. I can't hear you. I raised my voice and repeated it. Across the room, Renee watched me put on one shoe. Then she looked at the overnight bag, the fireplace, and the anniversary card I had not yet opened. I held the second shoe in my hand. Colin shouted that he'd found the valve. The water stopped roaring. In the sudden quiet, I heard Megan in the background. Ask him how soon he can get here. I looked at the shoe in my hand. How much water? I asked. Colin shouted the question toward Megan. Enough! She yelled back. Useful, I said. Is it still coming from the wall? No. The valve stopped it. Good. Turn off the furnace at the thermostat. If water reached any outlets, don't touch them. Shut off the dining room circuit at the panel. Which breaker? They're labeled. You labeled them? Last month. You really do love us. Not the time, Colin. Renee was still sitting on the bed. I lowered myself into the chair by the fireplace. one shoe on and one shoe off. Get every towel you have, I said. Don't worry about the table until the standing water is up. Move the chairs, rugs, and anything plugged in. Take pictures before you pull damaged things away from the wall. Can you come? The hotel was 2 hours and 40 minutes from their house in good weather. Snow had been falling since dinner. No, I said, not tonight. I felt the word in my chest after I spoke it. In the background, Megan said, "Give me the phone." A moment later, her voice came closer. "You're not coming? I'm at the lake. I know where you are. Then you know I'm almost 3 hours away. You drove that far for 2 nights? It's our anniversary? I know what it is." The way she said it made the date sound like an accusation. "You need an emergency plumber and a water removal company," I said. "I'll text Colin 2 numbers. You have numbers for this?" "I have a house. You have a number for everything except your daughter. That's not fair. Neither is water pouring into my dining room while you sit in a hotel." "I didn't burst the pipe. I didn't say you did. You implied I should fix it. I asked you to come. And I said no." Silence. Not the silence of a dropped call. I could hear her breathing, and farther away, Colin dragging something across the floor. "You're enjoying this," she said. "I'm not. You finally get to watch me handle something without you. I can't watch you. I'm 200 miles away. You know what I mean? I did. That was the trouble. Part of me had felt panic when Colin called. Another part had felt necessary again. Beneath both was a smaller, uglier satisfaction when I said no. Not because water was damaging Megan's house, but because for once she would have to feel the exact distance she had spent years assuming I would always cross. I looked at Renee. She was watching my face. "I'm not enjoying that you're in trouble," I said carefully. "That isn't what I asked." "No? Then what are you enjoying?" I could have lied. The lie was prepared and waiting. "Being asked," I said. Megan inhaled. I continued before I lost my nerve. "I am sorry. That isn't generous, and it isn't the reason I'm staying here. But yes, a part of me likes that. You noticed I'm not there." Renee's expression changed. Not approval, recognition. Megan said, "At least you admitted it. Call the plumber. Open the windows upstairs if the snow isn't blowing in. Don't use space heaters near wet flooring. I can read instructions. I know. Enjoy your anniversary," she ended the call. I sent Colin the numbers. He replied 3 minutes later. "Plumber coming in 45. Water crew by 11. We're okay." Then, "She's furious, but we're okay." I took off the other shoe. Renee stood and walked to the dresser. She opened the drawer where I'd placed my phone. "You could put it back," she said. "I'm not hiding it. You were before. I was being present. You were performing being present." I set the phone on the nightstand. "Are you angry?" I answered. "No." "Are you angry I didn't leave?" "No." "Then what?" She picked up the anniversary card and handed it to me. "What you said to Megan was honest. It didn't feel good. Honesty isn't a spa treatment. I shouldn't have enjoyed saying no. No, you're agreeing quickly. You made me promise not to applaud." I opened the card. On the front was a drawing of an elderly couple sitting on a dock beneath the words, "Still here." Inside, Renee had written, "I would choose you again, but I would ask more questions." "That sounds romantic and threatening," I said. "It's our brand." I sat beside her on the bed. "I wanted to go," I said. "I know." I could picture the water, the shut-off valve sticks. Colin probably turned it with a wrench instead of loosening the packing nut. I understood fewer than half those words. I could have been useful. Yes. And I wanted them to miss me. Yes. That makes the boundary feel like punishment. It makes you human. What you do next determines whether it becomes punishment. I turned the card over in my hands. What do I do next? Don't make their damage a lesson. Don't expect gratitude because you stayed. Don't drive home tomorrow morning unless they ask. That's 3 things. You like instructions. The plumber stopped the leak. The water crew removed part of the dining room wall, lifted 2 sections of flooring, and installed industrial fans that made conversation impossible. Colin sent photographs. The table had been moved into the living room and stood beneath a plastic sheet, its legs surrounded by boxes. I wrote, "Glad you're safe. Let me know if you want me to look after the fans come out." Megan didn't answer. Colin sent a thumbs up. We stayed the second night. It should not have felt like a victory, but it did. Then it felt like guilt. Then, sometime over breakfast, it felt like 2 married people finishing a trip they had planned. When we returned, I didn't drive past Hawthorne Glen. That required more discipline than staying at the hotel. For 9 days, I heard nothing. On the 10th, Colin called to say the walls were dry and the contractor had cut out more plaster than expected. "Can you show me how to patch it?" he asked. "Me? You said you'd help me." "I said that before Christmas. Does it expire?" "No, Saturday." I looked at Renee's calendar on the refrigerator. We had no plans. Saturday. "Megan will be here. It's her house. I'm giving you warning. Thank you." He cleared his throat. "She doesn't know I called. Then tell her before I come. That could affect whether you come. It should." An hour later, Megan texted. "Colin says you're coming Saturday. If that's okay with you, it's his project. It's your wall. Fine." I waited for more. Nothing came. Friday evening, Laura called while I was in the garage cleaning joint compound from tools that had not yet been used. "I told her," she said. My hand stopped over the bucket. "Told who what? Don't make me say it twice." "When?" "An hour ago." "Why now?" "Because she called me about the pipe." I set the putty knife down. "That happened almost 2 weeks ago. She didn't call to report it. She called because she was angry with you." "What did you tell her?" "The truth. All of it. I told her I was the one who left, that I went to Maine for what I said would be 6 months, that I came back after 5 and wanted to try again, that you didn't." I sat on the workbench. "What did she say?" "Nothing for a while. And then she asked whether Renee knew me before I left. She didn't. I told her that." "What else?" Laura exhaled shakily. "She asked if you were already seeing Renee when I came back." "I wasn't." I told her. The garage door rattled in the wind. How did she take it? How do you think? "I don't know anymore." She asked why I let her believe otherwise. "What did you say?" "That I was ashamed." I closed my eyes. "That's not the whole answer." "No. I also said I liked that she was angry with you because it meant she wasn't disappointed in me." The confession sounded costly. "Laura, don't forgive me. I didn't call for that." "What did Megan say?" She hung up. "Of course she did. She may call you. She may not. She deserves to be angry. Yes, so do you. I don't know what to do with that now. That has also always been your position." Before I could answer, the side door of the garage opened. Megan stepped inside. She wore jeans, work boots, and the green coat she used for house projects. Her hair was damp with snow. In one hand, she held the DAD place card from Christmas. "Is she on the phone?" she asked. I stood. Laura must have heard her. "I'll let you go," she said. "No," Megan replied loudly. "Stay." I put the phone on speaker and set it on the workbench. None of us spoke. Finally, Megan asked, "Did Dad tell you to call me?" "No," Laura said. "Did Renee?" "No." "Did Jonah know?" Laura hesitated. "He knew I left." "I don't know what Daniel told him about when I returned." Megan looked at me. "Jonah asked fewer questions," I said. "So everyone knew except me." "No," Laura said. "Everyone knew different pieces. That was part of the damage." Megan placed the card beside the phone. "Why did you say the divorce was mutual?" she asked me. "Because your mother asked me to." "And that was enough? I thought it would protect both of you." "From what?" "From choosing sides." She laughed once without humor. "How did that work?" "Badly." "You let me blame you." "Yes." "Why?" "Because I could carry it." Her eyes filled, but she didn't look away. "You let me blame Renee too. That was the wound beneath all the others." "I didn't understand how much you did," I said. "You saw it. Yes. You just decided she could carry it too." I looked toward the workbench, at the place card with my name on it. "Yes," I said. On the speaker, Laura began to cry quietly. Megan wiped her face with the heel of her hand. "You both lied to me?" "Yes," Laura said. "We left things out," I said, then immediately hated myself for it. Megan stared at me. "No," I said. "You're right. We lied. Because you thought I couldn't handle the truth? Because we couldn't handle telling it." That stopped her. She walked to the garage door and looked out through its small square window. Snow had begun collecting on the driveway in a thin white film. "I don't know what I'm supposed to do with this," she said. "You don't have to do anything tonight," I told her. "Stop giving me time like it's medicine." "All right." And stop saying all right. I nodded. Laura's voice came through the phone. "Megan, I am sorry. I can't talk to you. I understand." "No, you don't. I've spent 12 years feeling sorry for you. I know. I defended you to him, to Jonah, to Renee. I know. And all that time, you were the one who left." "Yes." Megan turned toward the phone. Why did you come back? Laura took a long breath. Because I missed being needed. The answer hung in the garage. I thought about the burst pipe, my shoe in my hand, the satisfaction I had hated admitting. Megan looked at me, and I knew she had made the same connection. What a family, she whispered. Then she picked up the dad place card and tore it once down the middle, not dramatically, carefully. She set both halves on the workbench. Colin wants to learn how to patch the dining room, she said. I know. He'll do it wrong if you don't stop him from rushing. Probably. I want to learn too. I waited. She looked at me. Will you show us? It was the first clean request she had made of me in months. Yes, I said. She nodded. Saturday, 9. Then she left the garage without hugging me, forgiving me, or taking back the torn card. Laura was still on the phone. That went better than I expected, she said. I picked up the two halves of my name. That says more about your expectations than the conversation. I ended the call and left the torn card on the workbench. For several minutes, I stood in the garage listening to the wind push snow against the door. The two pieces curled slightly at the torn edges. My name remained readable if I placed them close together, but I didn't. Renee found me there. She wore slippers and one of my old sweaters, and she had brought a mug of coffee I hadn't asked for. Megan was here, she said. You heard the door? I saw her car. She knows. About Maine? Everything we know how to tell. Renee handed me the mug. How bad? She tore my place card in half. That card should have been torn in half before Christmas. She asked me to teach her and Colin how to patch the wall. Renee's eyebrows rose. She asked, she used the word will. That's progress. She didn't forgive me. That would be suspiciously fast. I drank the coffee. Laura told her she came back because she missed being needed. Renee looked toward the torn card. What did you tell her? She asked. The truth. That I lied, that I thought I could carry the blame. Did you tell her you let me carry it too? She told me. And? I said yes. Renee nodded slowly. That must have hurt. It did. Good. I looked at her. Not because I want you hurt, she said. Because sometimes pain is evidence that the truth reached the right place. You and Laura should start a greeting card company. We'd destroy the industry. At 8:45 Saturday morning, I parked outside Megan's house with joint compound, drywall tape, sanding blocks, 3 putty knives, and no intention of doing the repair myself. At 8:57, Colin opened the front door. You're early, he said. I'm 3 minutes early. That's early enough to make me feel judged. Do you have drop cloths? His expression answered. I returned to the truck. Megan came downstairs while Colin and I covered the dining room floor with canvas. The damaged section of wall had been cut into an uneven rectangle 4 feet wide. Insulation showed behind it. One edge of plaster looked as though someone had chewed it. The water crew did that, Colin said. They used a reciprocating saw. They used anger. Megan carried 3 coffees in a cardboard tray. She handed one to Colin, one to me, and kept the third. Black, she said. Thank you. She looked at the tools. What do we do first? We make the opening square. It's already open. Square is not a synonym for open. I know that. Then we're ahead. I showed Colin how to mark clean lines around the damage. He made the first cut too shallow, the second too deep, and the third correctly. Megan held the shop vacuum hose near the blade and covered both of us in dust when she turned it toward the wall instead of away. Sorry, she said. Colin wiped white powder from his eyebrows. I look distinguished. You look haunted. Also distinguished. I laughed before I could stop myself. Megan looked at me. Not surprised exactly, but cautious, as though laughter might violate the terms of our current relationship. We fitted new drywall into the opening. Colin wanted to drive every screw until the head disappeared. Stop, I told him. It isn't flush. You broke the paper. It needs to be secure. More force isn't more secure. Megan looked at me over the vacuum hose. What? I asked. Nothing. It was a drywall instruction. I didn't say anything. You looked something. Colin raised one hand. I'm going to get more coffee while this becomes about Christmas. He left. Megan crouched beside the wall and ran her thumb over one of the screw heads. Mom said she came back to you, she said. Yes. And you wouldn't take her back. I didn't say it that way. How did you say it? I said I didn't want to start again. Why? I sat on the floor across from her. The room smelled of wet plaster and the industrial cleaner used after the pipe burst. The dining table remained under plastic in the living room. Without it, the room seemed less formal and more honest. By the time your mother came back, I had spent 5 months waiting for her to decide whether our life was worth returning to, I said. The first month, I called every day. The second, every few days. By the third, most of our conversations were about mail, but she did come back, she came to talk, she wanted to come home. Eventually. Megan frowned. That sounds like you punished her for taking too long. Maybe part of me did. She hadn't expected that. I continued. I was angry. I was also relieved. When she left, she made the decision for both of us. While she was gone, I realized I had been waiting for years, not months. For what? For her to want the life we had. She said she was unhappy. She was. You knew? Yes. And you did nothing? I fixed things. Megan glanced at the open wall. I repaired the porch, redid the guest room, replaced every cabinet hinge in the kitchen. I thought if the house worked, the marriage would. That sounds stupid. It was very productive stupidity. Did you talk to her? I asked what was wrong. She said she didn't know. I took that as permission to stop asking. Megan pulled at a loose thread on her jeans. Did you love her? Yes. Then? Yes. Even when she came back? Yes. Then why say no? Because love was no longer the only fact. She looked down. I had never told her any of that. For years I'd convinced myself the details belonged to Laura and me, but silence had not kept them private. It had turned them into whatever story caused the least friction at the time. When did you meet Renee? She asked. Almost 2 years after your mother left. More than a year after I told her we were done. At that cooking class? Community center. It was supposed to be Italian cooking. The instructor was from Wisconsin. I know where Wisconsin is. The marinara suggested otherwise. A small smile appeared and disappeared. Were you looking for someone? No. I was learning to make sauce because I was tired of eating things labeled skillet meal. Did you tell Renee about Mom? Too much. On our third date, I explained the dishwasher argument of 2006. What was the dishwasher argument? Your mother believed bowls went on the top rack. They do. That marriage was doomed. Megan shook her head, but the smile returned briefly. Colin came back carrying coffee and a box of donuts. Is it safe? No, Megan said, but sit down. We worked until noon. I forced myself to keep my hands away whenever one of them struggled. Teaching was harder than doing. It required watching a person make a mistake slowly enough to understand it. When we finished the first coat of compound, the patch looked terrible. It's supposed to, I said. Colin stood back. You say that now. It shrinks as it dries. We'll sand and add another coat. If you want help. Megan wiped compound from the edge of her putty knife. We do, she said. The second coat happened 4 days later. By the third Saturday, the wall was smooth enough to paint. Megan chose the same warm white that had been there before. I thought you wanted blue, I said. Colin wants blue. It looked like a dentist's office, she reminded him. Colin rolled paint onto the wall. A calming dentist's office. She took the roller from him. You're pressing too hard. You've been painting for 9 minutes, and learning aggressively. I cut in around the baseboard while they argued. After lunch, Colin left to return the rented fan. Megan and I remained in the dining room, each working on opposite sides of the repaired wall. She had stopped treating every silence as an accusation. I had stopped filling them with instructions. The house was supposed to make me feel different, she said. I kept my brush against the trim. Different how? Finished. Houses object to that. You know what I mean? I did. She rolled another strip of paint. When Colin and I lived in the apartment, everything felt temporary. We ate on the couch. We stacked pans in the oven. Christmas decorations went on a bookshelf because there was nowhere else. That sounds familiar. You had a house. We stacked pans in the oven. She looked at me. Colin's parents have lived in the same place for 34 years. Same Christmas tree spot, same neighbors. His mother has a photograph from every Christmas lined up along the hallway. I've seen them. Everybody is in every picture. His uncle disappeared from 3. He was in rehab, still disappeared. That isn't my point. I put the brush down. When we bought this place, she said, I thought we'd finally look established, like adults who knew where the serving dishes went. Serving dishes have caused too much damage in this family. I wanted the first Christmas here to be perfect. Why the original 4? She rolled over the same section twice. Because Colin's parents were coming. Because Mom was coming. Because I wanted one picture that showed we had been a normal family. We were a normal family. You got divorced. So do normal families. You know what I mean? Yes. She stopped painting. I thought if I got you and Mom in front of the fireplace, I could look at the picture later and remember us before everything split. Renee made the picture inaccurate. She made it current. The correction surprised me. I didn't want current, she said. I wanted proof the old family had existed. You had photographs already. None in this house. You could have brought one. That would have looked like memory. And you wanted it to look alive. She nodded. There was the answer she hadn't known in my driveway. I wanted Mom to look happy, she said. I wanted you to stand beside her. I wanted Jonah not to make jokes. I wanted Colin's parents to see us and stop being so careful whenever they mentioned their anniversary. Did they make you feel ashamed? No. That would have been easier. They were kind. Kindness can be exhausting. She rested both hands on the roller handle. When you refused, I thought you were choosing Renee over me. Then when Mom left and Jonah left, I thought everyone was proving I didn't have a family unless you were managing it. I helped create that. You didn't make me ask Renee to stay home. No. But I taught you I'd handle the cost. She looked at me. I came every time, I said, fixed whatever broke, smoothed over whatever hurt. I made being useful the easiest way to love me. That isn't my fault. No, you're saying it like it is. I'm saying it's mine. The distinction took a moment to settle. She put down the roller. Do you think you were a good father? The question hurt more than if she'd called me a bad one. Sometimes, I said. That's not an answer. It's the only honest one. She sat on the floor with her back against the undamaged wall. I joined her, leaving space between us. You were good, she said. You came whenever I called. That may not be evidence. It felt like love. It was. Then why does everybody talk about it like it was wrong? Because love can be real and still teach the wrong lesson. What lesson? That you never had to wonder whether I would come. And I never had to wonder whether you'd call if you didn't need something. She looked toward the plastic-covered table. I did want you there. At Christmas? Yes, without Renee. Yes, that version of me doesn't exist. I know. The words were quiet, but they were the first acceptance she had offered. She pressed her palms to her knees. Does she hate me? Ask her. I wouldn't know what to say. Start without explaining why you were right. I don't think I was right. Then start there. She nodded. When the paint dried, the repaired section was still visible from one angle. A faint change in texture caught the light near the baseboard. Colin wanted to sand it again. Megan stopped him. It's fine, she said. We'll know where it broke. She walked me to the front door. I waited for her to offer the spare key back. She didn't. I was glad. At home, Renee sat at the kitchen table reviewing receipts. My phone stayed silent. Hers buzzed. She read the message, then looked at me. Did you tell her to contact me? No. Renee turned the screen around. Megan had written, I owe you an apology. Not a Christmas apology that fixes everything. A real one. Could I take you for coffee? Renee read it again. Then she typed, Thursday. 4 o'clock. You choose the place. She sent it before she could change her mind. Renee wore the silver leaf earrings to coffee. She pretended that decision meant nothing, which was how I knew it meant a great deal. Don't wait up, she said. It's 4 in the afternoon. Then don't wait around. I have things to do. What things? Several. She looked through the kitchen window toward the garage. Are you going to sort screws? They require maintenance. They have not moved since January. You don't know what they do when we're asleep. She kissed my cheek and left. I made it 11 minutes before checking the clock. At 4:40, I went into the garage and discovered the screws remained organized. At 5:15, I started dinner. At 5:30, I turned the burner too high and scorched the onions. At 5:42, I considered calling, but decided I valued my marriage. Renee came home at 6:20, carrying a paper bag from a bakery. How was it? I asked. She bought you a cinnamon roll. That's evasive. It's still warm. How was it? Renee set down her purse and took off her coat. She looked tired, but not wounded. It was an apology. A real one? I don't know yet. She removed 2 cinnamon rolls from the bag, placed one on a plate for me, and ate a piece of the other while standing. What did she say? that she was wrong, that she used Laura's discomfort to justify something she wanted, that she treated me like I was an addition to you instead of someone with a separate place in the family. That sounds real. It sounded prepared. Prepared can be real. I know. What did you say? I told her the wedding hurt. I waited. She said she knew. Did she apologize? Yes. And? I told her I accepted the apology, but accepting it didn't make us close. That sounds harsh. It was honest. I nodded. She cried, Renee said. Did you? No. That surprises me. It surprised her too. Renee finally sat. I told her I liked her, she said. That was the part that made me cry. Why? Because it would be easier if I didn't. I reached across the table and took her hand. She asked what she should do now, Renee continued. What did you tell her? Stop asking us to design her apology. That sounds like something you'd say. She said it sounded like something you'd say. I'm being plagiarized by both sides. She also said you've started using the word no too often. I have not. You said no when she asked you to help move the table back. I said Colin and I could do it Sunday. She wanted Saturday. What were we doing Saturday? Nothing. Renee raised one eyebrow. We were going to do nothing together, I said. Important distinction. It is. The cinnamon roll was excellent. Megan's apology did not transform anything overnight. That helped me trust it. She did not begin calling Renee every day or asking her to lunch every week. She sent a message after coffee saying thank you. A few days later, she sent a photograph of the repaired wall and asked Renee, not me, whether the warm white made the blue sample look worse. Renee answered, yes. Megan replied, brutal. Renee wrote, you asked. 2 weeks later, Megan invited both of us to dinner. She addressed the invitation to Renee while I stood beside her in the grocery store parking lot. I was going to ask Dad, she said, but I thought I should ask you. That makes it sound like I grant permission, Renee replied. Megan closed her eyes. I practice this. I can tell. Would you and Dad like to come for dinner Sunday? Yes. Mom won't be there. You don't have to guarantee that. I thought it would help. It does. The dinner was stiff for the first 20 minutes. Megan served chicken that was pink near the bone. Colin tried to quietly put his portion back in the oven, which led to all the chicken returning to the oven and dinner becoming salad with delayed chicken. Nobody blamed anyone. I considered it measurable progress. Megan asked Renee about a difficult bookkeeping client. Renee asked Megan about work rather than the house. Colin and I discussed the patched wall for exactly 4 minutes, and then stopped. When I rose to clear the plates, Megan said, sit down. You cooked every holiday meal I remember. I can clear 4 plates. I like clearing. I know. I sat. She dropped a fork on the way to the kitchen, stepped on a piece of lettuce, and swore. Renee smiled at me. Nobody helped. Laura's apology took longer. She called Renee in April. I knew because Renee walked into the backyard carrying her coffee and stayed there for almost an hour. When she returned, she said only, your ex-wife believes the phrase, to be fair, counts as an apology. It does not. I explained that. Did she adjust, eventually? What did she say? That she never intended for me to carry the blame. I told her intention was enjoying an excellent reputation in this family. How did she take that? She said she liked me better when I remembered her coffee. That sounded promising. Megan and Laura did not repair as quickly. Their calls became less frequent and more honest. Megan stopped reporting every detail to me, which I took as a sign that some parts of their relationship had finally become theirs. I stopped asking Jonah for updates. He appreciated this so much he began offering them. Mom and Megan talked for 43 minutes, he told me one Sunday. How do you know? Mom called me afterward and described all 43. I don't want to know. I already suffered. It needs somewhere to go. Call a professional. You sound like Renee. By summer, Megan could mention Maine without using it as a weapon. By fall, Laura could admit she missed the freedom of that apartment without making the admission sound like regret for having a family. None of us discovered a version of the past that left everyone innocent. I began calling Megan on Sundays instead of waiting to be needed. Sometimes she didn't answer. Sometimes she called back and had nothing to ask for. Those were my favorite conversations. In November, Renee's phone rang while we were eating breakfast. She looked at the screen. It's Megan. Answer. I know how phones work. She put the call on speaker. Hi, Megan said. Are you both there? I'm here, I said. I called Renee. I noticed. Good morning, Dad. Good morning. There was a pause. I'm hosting Christmas again, she said. Renee spread jam across her toast. All right, Mom is coming. All right, Jonah, Colin's parents. Celia, if she promises not to bring the angel. She won't promise, Renee said. I know. Walter too if he wants. He'll bring nutmeg, I warned her. I've accepted that. Another pause. Renee, I want you to come. Renee stopped moving the knife. Not because Dad won't come without you, Megan continued. I mean, he probably won't. I definitely won't, I said. Dad. Sorry, I want you there because I'm inviting you. Mom knows. She said it will be awkward, but apparently discomfort isn't an emergency. That sounds familiar, Renee said. I'm trying. I know. Will you come? Renee looked at me. Yes, she said. We'll come. After the call, she carried her plate to the sink. You answered for both of us, I said. You were going. I might have had conditions. You do have conditions. You're not bringing folding chairs. That wasn't a condition. It is now. Colin bought 4 chairs of his own. He sent me a photograph of them assembled around the dining table with the message, no extra screws. I replied that 2 chair backs were reversed. He called me a word his mother would not have approved of. Christmas arrived warmer than the year before, with rain instead of ice. I carried the ham into Megan's house at noon. Renee walked beside me with cranberry sauce and no sewing kit. Megan met us at the door. She hugged me first, then turned to Renee. There was a fraction of a second when both women hesitated. Megan opened her arms. Renee stepped into them. Neither held on too long. Inside, the dining room wall caught the light differently where we had repaired it. Megan had left it that way. The table was extended, surrounded by matching wooden chairs and Colin's 4 slightly crooked additions. There were no place cards. The red felt star hung near the center of the tree with the gold stitching facing outward. Laura arrived from her hotel carrying 2 bottles of wine and a pie from a bakery. She stopped when she saw Renee. Merry Christmas, she said. Merry Christmas. I brought coffee. It's wine. I panicked. Renee took one of the bottles. I remember. They hugged sideways with their purses between them. It wasn't graceful. It was enough. The day had all the discomfort Megan had tried to prevent the year before. Laura and I reached for the same carving knife and both pulled back. Jonah made a joke, saw Megan's face, and apologized without being asked. Colin's mother mentioned their anniversary, then went quiet until Megan asked how they had celebrated. Celia brought the angel inside a garment bag and placed it in the guest bathroom. Walter found it while washing his hands and came out without discussing what he had seen. The ham was not dry. I used the thermometer once and then trusted it. At dinner, Megan sat between Laura and Renee. She did not try to manage their conversation. When Laura asked Renee how long we had been planning a summer trip, Megan didn't change the subject. When Renee asked Laura whether she still hated the blue dishes, Laura said she had donated them and regretted it. I always liked those, I said. You had 12 years to mention that, Laura replied. I did. You said they were fine. That was strong praise. Renee laughed. Laura did too, half a second later. After dinner, I began stacking plates. Megan took them from my hands. You brought the ham, she said. Your shift is over. I can help, I know. She carried the plates away. Colin moved chairs toward the fireplace. We're doing a picture, Megan announced. The room tightened almost invisibly. She noticed. Everybody, she said. Not combinations, not original anything, just whoever is here. Celia retrieved the angel. No, Megan said. She is here. Fine. Put her in the back. Colin set a timer on his phone and balanced it against 2 books on the mantel. Walter insisted the camera should be higher. Jonah said Walter had spent 37 years distrusting automated equipment. Laura stood near the end of the group, uncertain where to place herself. Megan took Renee by the hand and brought her beside me. Then she reached for Laura. You too, Mom. Laura joined us on Renee's other side. The first photograph caught Colin still running from the mantel. In the second, Walter's eyes were closed. In the third, Celia lifted the angel above Jonah's shoulder, making him swear as the flash went off. Megan looked at the pictures and started laughing. None of these are good. They're accurate, I said. She leaned against me, still laughing, while Renee stood warm at my other side, and Laura complained that the light made everyone look yellow. Over Renee's shoulder, the repaired red star hung on the tree. No one had disappeared to make the picture work.